Chapter 867. The people downstairs and Shisheng stayed out of each other's way. Shisheng was worried. She didn't even know what meow meow was. How was she going to detoxify it? Even the 999 antidote powder wouldn't work. Meow meow's endurance wasn't as good as Feng Chen's. It fainted in less than an hour. The thing that bit people must still be nearby. She had to catch it. People usually had antidotes for poisonous things. Maybe they had antidotes too? Shisheng shuddered at the thought of the teeth marks on Meow Meow's leg. Those were human teeth marks. It was horrifying to look at. Time flew by and Shisheng couldn't find a single strand of hair in the vicinity. While Shisheng was worrying, panicked screams came from downstairs. A man's scolding and a woman's screaming were mixed together. Shisheng stuffed the iron sword into Feng Chen's hand. Keep an eye on her. Feng Chen was speechless. The sword he had been thinking about for so long was finally in his hands. But it was useless. He didn't even have the strength to hold the sword. Shisheng went downstairs. There was a fire downstairs. A group of people huddled in a corner. In the light of the fire, there was a snake. Its body was covered with messy patterns. Its thick body was coiled up, and its tail was vibrating slightly. Its head was similar to a human's. Its forehead was very pointed and protruded into a triangle. It looked very strange. What the hell was this? Why were things that went against genetics more and more? Before Shisheng went downstairs, the strange snake disappeared in the blink of an eye. It's gone. Where is it? Look for it. Everyone looked around at the same time, but they couldn't find the snake. It had disappeared silently just like when it came. Ah! Someone in the crowd suddenly screamed. Shisheng saw a shadow flash by and head towards the corner. But he couldn't see anything when he looked closely. People in the crowd were bitten one after another. The strange snake came and went like a ghost. They couldn't even see its shadow. This was undoubtedly frightening. Things that couldn't be seen were much scarier than things that could be seen. Shisheng stood on the stairs and observed for a while. It seemed that this thing was only interested in biting people. It would never bite a person a second time after it had bitten once. She only saw a blurry shadow a few times, but when she looked carefully, there was no trace of the strange snake. The crowd huddled together and looked around vigilantly. A minute passed, but nothing happened. 2 minutes later, there was still no movement. 3 minutes, 10 minutes later, there was still no movement. Have they left? Let's go. Everyone remained in a stalemate for a while. After confirming that the thing was gone, they began to check on the people on the ground. Their symptoms were similar to Feng Chen's. Amy, someone shouted. Use your healing card. Amy was pushed to the front. She was a little reluctant, but with so many people staring at her, she could only use the healing card. Shisheng thought that it would be useless, but she forgot that the female lead was different. Her treatment card was useful. Once again they witnessed the fate of cannon fodder. Flip's table. With this setting, how could the villains not fight with the protagonists? I don't have enough points. Amy only treated 2 people, and looked at the boss next to her with an ugly expression. Who has more points? Recently, there were too many places to use the black card, and there were no point missions to do. Many people had used up their points. No more. No more. I don't have any either. The boss's face was pale. No more? Everyone shook their heads. They had used up most of their points to deal with that monster. This was what it meant to be used up. Amy glanced at Shisheng standing on the stairs. She suddenly pointed at Shisheng. She should have some. The boss looked in the direction Amy was pointing at, and the corner of his mouth twitched. Let him snatch food from the tiger's mouth? That was impossible. But the people lying on the ground were all his brothers. These people had been with him since he came in, and they had gone through so many ups and downs together. The boss asked tentatively, Miss Yu, can you give us some points? Of course we will pay you. Pay? What can you afford? Shisheng looked at them calmly. Miss Yu, make a request. As long as I can fulfill it, I will do it. What else could they have now? The boss could only let Shisheng make the request himself. If it was too much, he would have to give up on these people. Shisheng turned and went upstairs. The boss was dumbfounded. He called out anxiously, Miss you. But Shisheng didn't stop. He quickly went upstairs and disappeared from their sight. Just as everyone was looking at each other, she came down with a person in her arms and put him against the wall. I can give you the points, but you can lend me your healing card. Everyone looked at Meow Meow's face and compared it to the people who were bitten. How could they not know what was going on? Okay. The boss agreed without hesitation. It was just a healing card. I don't agree, Amy said. She didn't want to use her healing card to save this woman's people. Amy, the boss scolded. I'm in charge here. You have to agree even if you don't want to. Amy wanted to say something, but was stopped by the girl behind her. Don't worry, Miss You. We can treat this girl first. The boss turned around with a respectful look on his face. Shisheng threw a black card over. The boss hurriedly caught it and handed it to Amy. Amy bit her lip and glared at Shisheng. She took the card and transferred the points to her own black card. She walked over to Meow Meow. If she dares to do anything, all of you will die. Shisheng's voice sounded faintly. The boss was shocked. He hurried to Amy's side and stared at her. Amy clenched her fists. Her nails dug into her palms. With the boss watching, Amy didn't dare to do anything. She treated Meow Meow obediently. Meow Meow woke up not long after the treatment. She looked a little weak. Sister Yuxia? She reached out to touch her calf. It was still throbbing, but she didn't feel anything when she touched it. Shisheng patted her head. It's okay. Amy used Shisheng's points. She didn't try to save them at all. She spent as many points as she could. It's all used up. Amy's points were used up after treating 2 people. The boss looked at Shisheng awkwardly. Miss You. Shisheng took out a handful of cards from his pocket and gave them to the boss without hesitation. Everyone was speechless. How many cards did she have? She casually swiped and she had so many. Although there were more people coming in now and the black cards weren't as rare as before, most people still didn't have many black cards. Amy stared at Shisheng's cards. Her expression was slightly twisted. Asterisk, it's so cold. Everyone keep warm. Don't catch a cold. Moo moo. Chapter 868. Amy healed everyone. The healing card didn't seem to have any side effects. Anyway, Shisheng saw that she didn't show any signs of discomfort from beginning to end. This was the treatment of a female lead. When she used that speed card, she would feel a little nauseous at first, but after her level increased, she didn't feel anything. Sister Yuxia and Brother Fangchen. Meow Meow didn't forget Fangchen. Shisheng's mouth twitched. He didn't want to save that pervert. Sister Yuxia, Brother Fangchen will die. Does Miss You have a companion? Boss heard Meow Meow's words and immediately said, if it's not convenient for you to come down, I'll take Amy upstairs to treat him. Meow Meow looked at Shisheng pitifully and tugged at Shisheng's sleeve. Why are you acting cute? Do you think I'll let you go? I won't save that pervert. Sister Yuxia. No. Yuxia, do you have to be so ruthless? Fangchen poked his head out and said weakly, Brother Fangchen. Meow Meow immediately let go of Shisheng and ran to Fangchen. Look, as soon as this guy comes, the cute girl is gone. Save my ass. Boss looked at Shisheng and shook his head. He didn't dare to ask Amy to save him. Sister Yuxia. I beg you. Humph. Shisheng snorted and strode over to him. He snatched the iron sword from his hand and said coldly, do whatever you want. Meow Meow watched Shisheng go upstairs and whispered, is Sister Yuxia angry? Of course she's angry. She wanted him to die, but this little girl insisted on saving him. She probably wanted to kill someone right now. Thinking of this, he suddenly felt as if he had found the door to a new world. No, now wasn't the time to think about this. Hurry, I'm going to die. Fangchen was depressed when he found that Amy's card could heal him, but his card couldn't. They were both healing cards, and his was much better than Amy's. Why couldn't he heal her? Because of this, Fangchen struggled for a long time. He was so conflicted that he wanted to snatch Amy's card. Of course, he didn't go in the end because Shisheng mocked and ridiculed him. Fangchen concluded that there was only one word to describe the offense: too ugly. Meow Meow. Fang Chen pulled Meow Meow closer to him. Do you think I'm ugly? You're not ugly, Meow Meow said crisply. Big brother Fang Chen is very handsome. This was the truth. The more he looked at this little girl, the more he liked her. Ugly people won't admit that they are ugly, Shisheng added. Fang Chen was speechless. What did his face do to provoke her? Why did she have to call him ugly? Was she really ugly? Fang Chen's face could be considered impressive among the general public, but if he were to be placed among the main characters, there was no comparison at all. He was just an ordinary person. Passerby Chen decided to change the topic. What's the thing that bit me? Did you see it? Who knows? Shisheng did not want to talk to Fang Chen. Fang Chen was speechless. This woman really had a temperament that made people want to kill her. She said she didn't know, but her face said, I won't tell you. Wasn't she asking for a beating? Fang Chen was convinced that she could live to this age. Fang Chen couldn't get anything out of Shisheng, so he strolled downstairs. Those people probably coveted Shisheng, but they didn't do anything to Fang Chen. He asked about what happened last night, and someone told him. After listening to the story, Fang Chen felt terrible. What the hell was a snake with a human face? Fang Chen decided to stay with Shisheng. This world was no longer the world he was familiar with, and he had to rely on him. Not only did Fang Chen feel that it was safest to stay with Shisheng, but the group of people downstairs also felt that it was safest to stay with Shisheng. Therefore, they didn't leave after dawn. The biting snake appeared again during the day, but this time it only wandered outside for a while before disappearing. If someone didn't see it by coincidence, no one would know that it had been there. When Fang Chen heard the news, he ran up to Shisheng and told him, You xia, the people downstairs said that the snake appeared again. Shisheng sat on the windowsill with his chin propped up. When he heard Fang Chen's voice, he looked sideways. Did someone die? Fang Chen shook his head. No, it didn't seem to come in. What kind of question was that? It was always about death. Shisheng looked outside. There was a patch of grass outside. He didn't know if the grass had always been there, or if it had grown later. Let's wait until it gets dark and watch a show. What show? Fang Chen didn't understand. Shisheng's lips curled up slightly. A drama between a human and a snake. Snakes were social animals. Even if its genes had mutated, it was still a snake. Fang Chen. Why did he understand all the words she said, but he didn't understand when she put them together? When it was almost dark, Shisheng put a strange set of clothes on Meow Meow. It was a one-piece kind with only its head exposed. What about me? Fang Chen felt that this thing must be very useful. You can't favor one over the other. It's none of your business. Fang Chen was silent. He suddenly smiled at Meow Meow. Meow Meow. Big brother Fang Chen. Meow Meow smiled obediently. Come over here and stay with me. Fang Chen waved at Meow Meow. Meow Meow hesitated. She had made Shisheng angry before. She shook her head slightly. Sister Yuxia asked me to stay with her. Fang Chen. I don't want to talk. I want some peace and quiet. Don't ask me who peace and quiet is. Fang Chen huddled in a corner alone. The light around him was getting darker and darker. There seemed to be a rustling sound outside. It was soft at first, but as the sky darkened, the sound became louder. Shisheng leaned on the windowsill and looked down at the grass below. The weeds were swaying as if they were being stirred up by something. It was as if a wave was surging over from the distance. Rustle, rustle. The sound was getting closer. Snakes appeared one after another. They all had the same pattern on their bodies, and their length and size were almost the same. They densely surrounded the whole building. Fang Chen didn't believe Shisheng at first, but looking at these snakes, he had to believe it even if he didn't want to. A battle between humans and snakes was about to break out. The people below probably noticed the snakes as well, and there was an uproar. The sound startled the snakes, and they disappeared in the blink of an eye. The grass nearby was still swaying, but they couldn't be seen. Shisheng shone his flashlight in that direction. He could vaguely see the outlines of snakes in some places. Invisibility. Fang Chen frowned. Some monsters had special abilities. Color change, Shisheng corrected. Like chameleons, these snakes had assimilated themselves with the environment. When they moved, the environment changed, and so did the color of their bodies. That was why people thought they were shadows. Asterisk hashtag noodle-flavored tickets today hashtag come, eat the noodles. Chapter 869. Being besieged by a group of snakes was an extremely terrifying thing, especially when these snakes looked so strange. Perhaps it was because they had worked together with Sheng before, but these people were bolder than before. The people downstairs quickly retreated. That was how people were. As long as you were nice to them, they would take advantage of you. If you were angry, they would think you were wrong. That was the root of all people. Sheng didn't stop them. He didn't want to stay here anyway. Sheng helped Meow Meow onto the windowsill. The iron sword floated outside, and Meow Meow carefully moved onto it. Feng Chen was speechless. Why did you give Meow Meow clothes if you were going to run away? There was cat biscuits. Feng Chen didn't count on Sheng anymore. It was faster for him to save himself. Sheng took Meow Meow away from the building. In the darkness, the screams made the building flicker. Buzz 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 buzz. The sound of wings flapping suddenly rang out. A swarm of long worms with wings appeared above the building. They could fly? Were they trying to fly? A thought flashed through Sheng's mind. These things couldn't be the white worms from before, could they? It was possible. Although the worms had attack power, they weren't particularly strong. It would make sense if they were in their infancy stage. While Sheng was thinking, the flying snakes came toward him. Sheng quickly lowered the iron sword. The iron sword dropped a little, and there was a loud vibration above them. The vibration seemed to be everywhere. Sheng had no choice but to return with Meow Meow. Sheng jumped in with Meow Meow in her arms. She swung her sword in all directions, revealing several severed snakes that lay limply on the ground. The others knew that there must be more than one snake attacking them. But Sheng just swung his sword and there were several of them. How many were there in the room? They couldn't see at all. Yuxia, why are you back? Feng Chen carefully moved over from the corner. Meow Meow was the first to speak. There are some in the sky too. Ha 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 ha, you deserve it. Feng Chen's reaction was definitely a conditioned reflex. After he finished laughing, he realized that it was inappropriate. Cough cough. But he really deserved it. Who asked you guys not to bring him along? Now this is your retribution. Sheng swung his iron sword, and began to slash at the snakes expressionlessly. Every time he swung his sword he hit the target. Everyone was stunned. Could she see these things? Since the Sheng was too strong, the survivors couldn't help but lean towards the Sheng. The space was getting smaller and smaller, and Sheng felt that she couldn't even wield her sword. She shouted angrily. Why are you leaning over? Are you courting death? Can't you see I am killing snakes? This bunch of idiots. Believe it or not, I'll chop you up if you dare to come any closer. Sheng pointed at the person closest to her and said fiercely. That person involuntarily took a step back. Next to Sheng, Meow Meow imitated Sheng and swung a sword that came out of nowhere. Meow Meow wasn't as good as Sheng and only managed to hit one snake after swinging for a long time. Before the snake was killed, Sheng turned around and swung his sword to kill it. Sheng glanced at Meow Meow. Meow Meow stuck out its tongue and continued to slash. With the experience from the first time, the second time was much better. In the end, although he couldn't hit every time, he could still hit 3 or 4 times out of 10. Meow Meow. Feng Chen moved to Meow Meow's side. How did you do it? These things couldn't be seen at all. He could only rely on his body's instincts to react to danger. But he couldn't even beat a child. Why did he feel so frustrated? Meow Meow's face was tense as he answered seriously. Sister Yuxia said to chop at will. Feng Chen was dumbfounded. Huh? What did she mean by chop at will? Meow Meow swung his sword like an expert. Just chop at will. Feng Chen was speechless. Did chop at will mean chop at will? He thought that woman had taught Meow Meow some kind of method, but it turned out to be chop at will? Are you kidding me? How could chop at will hit? Feng Chen didn't have a weapon. He took Meow Meow's sword and swung it around. The blade cut through the air, and 2 snakes fell from the ground. F*ck. It was true. The room was full of snakes. Of course, it was easy to chop at will. The clothes Meow Meow was wearing could prevent the snakes from biting her, so to outsiders, it looked more like Meow Meow had found a way to chop the snakes. In reality, she was just randomly chopping at will. Later, some people probably noticed, and the screams gradually disappeared. These snakes relied on their ability to change color. In reality, they weren't very strong. One by one, the snakes in the room were cleared out. Snake corpses covered the room, and a foul stench filled the room. "Where's Amy? Amy?" Someone was probably bitten by a snake, and called for Amy anxiously. "Where's Amy? I don't see her." Everyone turned over the corpses on the ground, but there was no sign of Amy. Amy was gone. At the same time, a large number of strange snakes surrounded them. Shisheng had only wanted to watch the show. Who knew that these things would have an air force? He could only continue to kill the snakes. Rumble. What's that sound? It sounds like it's coming from below. The house is moving. The whole building was shaking, as if something was going to come out from underground. The building shook more and more violently. No one dared to delay any longer. They all ran outside. If the building collapsed, they would all be buried inside. Shisheng looked back at Meow Meow. Fangchen was protecting her, so she didn't turn back. Instead, she jumped out of the window. The moment everyone left the building, the whole building was overturned. A very thick tail pulled out of the ground, wrapped around the remains of the building, and tightened. The building was smashed to pieces under the tail. It was a huge snake. Its appearance was no different from those strange snakes. The only difference was that the scales on its body were pure silver. The big snake pulled its body completely out of the ground. The small snakes around it seemed to be afraid of it, and began to retreat. Just as everyone was watching the big snake suddenly started attacking the small snakes, eating them one by one. How cruel! Shisheng was dumbfounded. It even ate its own kind. The air force in the sky circled the big snake. After the big snake finished eating the small snakes on the ground, it coiled up and began to eat the ones in the sky. Run! No one knew who reacted first. The people who were still alive didn't care about the organization, and chose to run in the direction they thought was safe. The big snake didn't seem to be interested in the humans who weren't enough to fill the gap between its teeth. It ate the air force in the sky seriously. Shisheng naturally wouldn't deal with such a big snake. The 10-star level should be the highest level in the world. If he couldn't level up, he wouldn't get any experience points. That would be boring. Shisheng found Meow Meow and quickly left this place. Chapter 870. No one could defeat the snake. Every once in a while, Shisheng would see the snake feasting on a bunch of monsters. It seemed to eat anything and sometimes attacked large groups of people. But not long after, Shisheng didn't hear any more news about the snake. The female lead also disappeared. The female lead's passive skill, life and death, would disappear. Meet an old grandpa? Get a strange inheritance? This is not a fantasy novel. Meet an old grandpa and get an inheritance. Shisheng found that there were a lot of people looking for trouble with her. They would throw themselves at her as soon as they saw her. In order not to be accidentally hurt, Fangchen usually stayed dozens of meters away from Shisheng and waited for her to finish fighting before coming over to share the loot. Fangchen's shamelessness also refreshed Shisheng's worldview. Shisheng only found out after a while that she was so popular because they all received a mission. As long as they could hurt her, no matter how serious the injury, they would get a chance to leave this world. The whole world is against me. Of course, Shisheng wouldn't hesitate to accept a head delivered to her doorstep. The world was constantly changing. Maybe it was because they found that there were too many monsters in the world and they couldn't defeat them alone. So humans began to unite. They killed those heretics who had lost their minds. Everyone gathered in the center of the world. They elected a supreme leader. Who did you say? Shisheng spat out the water in his mouth. Yusya. You're wasting it. It's hard to find food now, you know. Fangchen's face was sprayed with water, but it wasn't his face that was hurt. It's just a mouthful of water. Do I lack food and clothes? Shisheng rolled his eyes. Fangchen was exhausted. She had always given all her food to Meow Meow. She had never given it to him. He had always found the food himself. How could she have the nerve to say such a thing? Who did you say is the supreme leader? She felt like she was hallucinating. Fangchen wiped his face. Bai Qi, the man who has been competing with you. Mu Bai was going to be the leader of humans. Was he going to mobilize the whole human race to deal with her? She was scared. Where are they? She hadn't heard from him for a long time, and he was already a king. Central City. Fangchen frowned. That's what they call that place now. I heard that it's in the center of this world. Fangchen added. Oh right, Suan Yuan is here too. Shisheng. Yexem. The male lead and the villain got together? It took Shisheng a month to find Central City. There was no map in this world, and monsters were everywhere. It was already considered fast for her to find it in a month. Shisheng saw the silver-white snake coiled outside the city before he got close to the city center. To enter the city gate, one had to pass under it. It's actually here. Fangchen was speechless. You still want to kill the white chess piece? Shisheng said with a straight face. The world will never be at peace if the retards are not eliminated. What kind of stupid declaration was this? I'm not going with you. Fangchen immediately declared. Help me kill Suan Yuan as well. The corner of Shisheng's mouth twitched. Why don't you just let me help you live? You should just die. Fangchen smiled. I don't need to trouble you. I can do it myself. He waved at Shisheng. Come back early. Shisheng didn't want to talk to the retard. He walked towards Central City. Meow Meow wanted to follow him, but Fangchen stopped her. Where are you going? I'm going with Sister Yuxia. Fangchen pressed Meow Meow's shoulder. We don't know what's going on inside. It's not even clear if she can come back. What are you going to do? Then why aren't you stopping Sister Yuxia? Meow Meow was anxious. When have you ever seen her listen to others? Fangchen couldn't help but complain. What a self-righteous woman. Fangchen saw that Meow Meow was about to cry and changed his words. You'll only be a burden if you go with her. We'll wait here for her to come back. You have to trust her. Bang. The sudden explosion made Fangchen tremble. He looked in the direction of Central City. The corner of his mouth twitched. He knew that she wouldn't use any conventional methods. She blew up the city as soon as she went up. There was a figure in the sky. The explosions continued below. The giant snake didn't move. It was unknown whether it was stunned by the explosion or frightened. She rushed towards the center of Central City. If someone tried to stop her, she would blow it up. The Central City, which was already starting to take shape, was turned into a pile of ruins by the explosion. It was even worse than before. Shisheng blew up all the way to where Mu Bai was. She violently killed her way in, but she couldn't find Mu Bai anywhere. That's not right. She hadn't seen Mu Bai before. Mu Bai didn't show up the previous few times. Shisheng turned back. The people who had just been taught a lesson saw Shisheng coming back. They were so scared that their legs turned to jelly. Didn't she leave? Why did she come back? This woman was like a god of death. She was even scarier than Mr. Bai. Go and gather all of you. Shisheng pointed at two people. The two people were a little unhappy. Why should we listen to you? Shisheng waved the iron sword. Because of this. Look at what happened to those people outside. Then tell me if you want to listen to me or not. The two people's faces were ashen. They glared at Shisheng and left reluctantly. Who dared to say no in the face of violence? The core management of Central City was quickly gathered together. A group of people trembled as they looked at the girl sitting at the head of the table. She was holding an iron sword in her hand. She was tapping it on the table, making a crisp sound. This was the woman who was at the top of the killing list. There were still corpses lying on the ground outside. Those who went against her had a horrible ending. Shisheng sat at the head of the table with her legs crossed. She supported her chin and tilted her head to look at the group of people. Where is Bai? The group of people shook their heads. I don't know. They really didn't know where Bai was. They couldn't follow him every day, right? He is Mr. Bai's secretary. He knows. A man was pushed out. I don't know. The man shook his head nervously and stammered. I I only saw Mr. Bai this morning. After that, I never saw him again. The man paused for a moment before whispering. Suan Yuan should know where Mr. White is. He usually follows Mr. White. Suan Yuan? The man nodded vigorously. What were the male lead and the villain doing? They didn't even want the female lead. Why were they fooling around with the villain all day? Were they gay? Where is he? Shi Sheng tapped the table with the iron sword. He looked like a hooligan. I just saw him, heading towards the villa. The man didn't dare to hide anything. Take me there. Yes. Chapter 871. Shi Sheng was brought to a tidy-looking villa. It was probably just tidied up and not renovated. Fortunately, the windows and everything else were still intact. In a world that was gray everywhere, this villa stood out from the rest, and was particularly eye-catching. The secretary reached out to knock on the door, but before he could touch it, the door disappeared. Shi Sheng calmly retracted his foot, and looked at the secretary seriously. I slipped. The secretary swallowed his saliva and the muscles on his face twitched slightly. To be able to slip like this, it was also Shi Sheng swaggered in, but there was no one in the villa. Thinking about it, with such a big commotion outside, Mubai would know it was her as soon as he saw the explosion. It would be strange if he didn't run. But running away with the male lead. Why did it feel so strange? After Mubai ran away, Shi Sheng took over Mubai's business without hesitation. Before the person who built the business could enjoy it, it changed hands in the blink of an eye. Everyone was against it. A scary pervert had just left. And now an even more perverted one had come. How were they going to live? Of course, their opinions didn't matter. Shi Sheng violently suppressed those who objected, and sent people to bring Meow Meow into the city. If she loses even a strand of hair, you will be buried with her. Buried with a strand of hair? What a joke. Besides, even if she loses a strand of hair, you won't know. The pickup team didn't dare to object, and obediently went to fetch the girl. The girl was also very confused. How long had she been in there? She had already taken over the nest? Thinking about it again, when she went in and blew up everything along the way, there didn't seem to be anything wrong. But Fang Chen was still very suspicious. What if this was an enemy's evil plan? So Fang Chen didn't agree and insisted that Shi Sheng come to fetch her personally. The pickup team went back to report, and Shi Sheng told them to take Meow Meow back. As for Fang Chen, he could do whatever he wanted, even if he died. The pickup team. This was a complicated love triangle. Hearing this, Fang Chen stopped making a fuss and followed them in. There was no one else who could do such a thing except for that woman. Shi Sheng had taken over Mubai's position, but she didn't do anything. Fang Chen was responsible for everything in Central City. Of course, Shi Sheng didn't really do nothing. She would give orders and let Fang Chen do it. Fang Chen was dog-tired every day. He suspected that the reason she let him in was to enslave him. Shi Sheng even said, "You became the boss without mobilizing a single soldier. What else do you want?" Fang Chen was speechless. He had seen all kinds of ways to become a boss. This was the first time he had seen someone become a boss in such a strange way. A long time ago, he also wanted to be the boss, but he never thought that one day, he would be so loathsome. Was it because he was old? Asterisk flips table asterisk he wasn't the boss at all. The Shi Sheng had classified the people in Central City into different groups. Each of them was in charge of their own territory. If anyone wanted to be promoted, they just needed to get rid of their boss. But I can't kill him. The consequences would be terrifying. Central City used to be a little messy, but after being organized by the Shi Sheng, it quickly got back on track. Other than a little shortage of food, there were no other problems. The source of food was some plants and monsters in this world. Some monsters' meat was edible. Although they looked ugly, they tasted pretty good. So these people would organize people to go out and kill monsters every day and bring back food. Shi Sheng followed them out twice, but this group of people didn't dare to let her follow them anymore. If she went out, she would either explode or chop into pieces. How were they going to bring back food? A slender man leaned against a tree trunk. The branches and leaves above his head swayed, causing the light to flicker. His expression was uncertain. Why did we give up on Central City? Someone came up from behind and stared at the man with burning eyes. We have an advantageous position. Why did we give up on Central City? You don't understand. Mubai lowered his eyes, hiding the emotions in them. I don't understand. Suan Yuan raised his voice. You've done so much, but it's all for her? He had put in so much effort, but in the end, it was all for that woman. She had effortlessly controlled Central City. Mubai looked at Suan Yuan. Do you think she can control Central City with just one sentence? Which one of those people in Central City was easy to get along with? If she wasn't capable, she would have been chopped into pieces. She was only capable if she could control those people. Suan Yuan's expression changed slightly. He looked at Mubai with a complicated expression. But you, Mubai curled his lips slightly. His voice sounded like it came from the heavens. It's your turn. Shisheng guessed that Mubai was still up to something, so she wasn't surprised when she saw countless monsters surrounding the city. Mubai wasn't Mubai if he didn't cause trouble. Shisheng led people up to a temporary platform and saw a group of people standing in the middle of the monsters. He even waved at Shisheng casually, as if he was meeting an old friend. Shisheng jumped down from the platform and went straight for Mubai. The surrounding monsters wanted to stop him, but Shisheng turned violent and went straight for Mubai. Shisheng thought that Mubai was going to resist, but he didn't. He allowed Shisheng to tie him up. Mubai maintained a smile on his face. I'm not running away. Can you not tie me up like this? This would ruin his image, all right. He was a gentleman. He had to be elegant. Shisheng gritted his teeth. You're not running away? Are you going to commit suicide? Shisheng put a few more layers of rope on Mubai and took away all the knives on him. Shisheng turned back to Mubai. Are you going to tell me, or do you want me to torture you? Mubai played dumb. Tell me what? Shisheng was practically gritting her teeth as she spat out the words one by one. Who sent you? No one sent me. Mubai smiled elegantly. Shisheng raised his hand and grabbed Mubai's neck. Mubai's pupils constricted. He seemed to be panicking, but his emotions were fleeting. Calm down. Be elegant. Since no one sent you, does that mean you have a grudge against me? Your name is Mubai? Are you from the Mu family? Mubai was still smiling. Which Mu family? How many Mu families are there? Shisheng sneered. Do you think I don't know? Mubai shrugged. Fine. My surname is just a coincidence. I have nothing to do with the Mu family you're talking about. Shisheng narrowed his eyes. How did you get in? I hacked my way in. What's your motive? To kill you. What's your reason? Miss Shisheng, you have too many questions. I have the right to refuse to answer them. Mubai paused. You've already asked me this question once. No matter how many times you ask me, my answer will always be the same. But your answer isn't the answer I want. Then we'll have to see if Miss Shisheng can find the answer. He tilted his head and looked into the distance. It's almost time. Miss Shisheng, I wish you good luck. There was blood at the corner of Mubai's mouth, but he didn't seem to care. He pulled the corners of his mouth and smiled slyly. Chapter 872. The light in Mubai's eyes quickly disappeared, and he turned into a soulless corpse. Shisheng threw him aside with a grimace. His method of suicide had been upgraded, and he had learned to take poison. What did Mubai mean by that last sentence? Just as Shisheng was puzzled, the ruins in the distance started to crack, as if someone had cut them open with a knife. Darkness seeped in and swallowed the ruins, and it quickly extended towards her. Shisheng's heart skipped a beat. It's collapsing. F***CK. This idiot. System, send I back. No. I can't send you back. The system spoke very quickly, and the cold electronic voice sounded a little eerie. The system checked the portal, but it couldn't open it. Shisheng stepped on his sword and flew quickly towards Central City. He took out his computer and said, "Send me the portal's data." She didn't have access to the portal's data. The system knew that the situation was critical, so it used its authority to send the data over. Shisheng lowered his head and quickly scanned the data on the screen. The cracks were getting faster and faster. Shisheng's fingers flew across the screen. Just as the cracks were about to reach her, she suddenly disappeared. The entire world turned into countless fragments, floating in the darkness. Shisheng fell from the sky. The blinding light made it difficult for her to open her eyes. It took her a while to adjust. This was the system space. She was scared to death. The system didn't say what would happen to her if the plane collapsed, but she knew it wouldn't end well. How did Mubai do it? Shisheng covered his butt and stood up from the ground. He looked at the screen that stood quietly beside him. It's Suanyuan. An image appeared on the screen. It was a place filled with lava. It made people's faces turn red. Suanyuan was holding a woman in his hand. If Shisheng wasn't wrong, that woman should be Aimi. Aimi was awake, so Shisheng couldn't hear anything. He only saw Aimi begging Suanyuan, but Suanyuan didn't move. Aimi then started to cry. Suanyuan was probably annoyed. He chopped Aimi's neck with his hand. Aimi went limp and fell to the ground. Suanyuan turned Aimi over. He used a strange dagger to stab Amy in the chest. Just as he stabbed her, the lava around them began to boil. Suanyuan seemed to be suffering from some kind of pain. With great difficulty, he pressed down the dagger bit by bit. In the end, Suanyuan was sent flying. He crashed into a nearby rock and rolled into the magma. The magma boiled and his figure disappeared. Almost at the same time, the surrounding scene began to shatter. Shisheng blinked. Suanyuan killed Aimi. Aimi died, so the bit wall collapsed. Then the question is, Suanyuan is from the original world. If he killed Aimi, the bit wall wouldn't collapse. Why did it collapse now? Why did he kill Aimi? This world was originally in danger of collapsing. The people who first built this world didn't intend for these people to kill, but I don't know why things turned out this way. Aimi was put into this world to correct this mistake. Her life is closely related to this world. If she dies, although the world won't collapse, it won't be far from it. Not to mention, there's external help. The system methodically explained to Shisheng some knowledge that wasn't mentioned in the plot. External help. It should be the dagger in Suanyuan's hand. That thing must have been given to him by Mubai. Mubai was also an outsider. His things must be external. The next question. Why did Suanyuan kill Aimi? Mubai hypnotized Suanyuan. Hypnotize? The retarded Mubai knew such a high-level skill? He used the male lead to kill the female lead, caused the world to collapse, and even closed the passage to trap her in that world. The bit wall was virtual. The people inside were all virtual. But she wasn't. Her soul was real. If she wasn't strong enough, she would have disappeared with the bit wall. The system didn't speak. After waiting for Shisheng for a long time, the system began to refresh the information. Name, Shisheng morality points. 295000 health points. 35 contribution points. 47,000 mission grade. A mission points. 65 item list. Queen's crown. Ghost King's heart. Dark Knight. Kiran Bloodshirsh glanced at the screen. For the first time he was surprised. Only I's morality points are deducted? This didn't make sense. Was there a bug again? He didn't want to deduct so little either. But according to the statistics, the host's defense in the central city and the bit wall weren't destroyed by her. Killing people in this world was legal, so, do you want to teleport? He didn't want to see this host at all. Although he didn't have a heart, he was frustrated. Shisheng held the screen. Countless questions from the system began to fiddle with her. Mubai, this retarded person, could even close the passage. Something was wrong. She admitted that he was powerful. But to be more powerful than her, she still felt that it was impossible. Something was wrong. She was just so confident. Don't ask why. Her morality was bad. Shisheng went through the program again and again. The system was annoyed, but Shisheng still maintained the same posture. There was no change. The system was bored. It began to run the self-checking system. It found that its speed couldn't keep up with the host. It was so tiring. She suddenly started to doubt life. What was the use of it? Next bit wall. Hearing these words, the system seemed to have heard good news. It immediately opened the passage. Initializing transmission. This place is too creepy. Why did you choose this place? There are few people here. It's not easy to be discovered. Hurry up and get her in. The rustling sounds kept ringing in Shisheng's ears. She wasn't very conscious. It was a little blurry. It was probably because she was drugged. This damned battle royale. No money. Don't you want your daughter? F***CK. The space was silent for a few seconds. Then the voice roared. I'm telling you. I'll give you 2 more hours. If you don't send the money, don't blame us for being cruel. The phone probably fell to the ground. It was followed by the sound of something breaking. What's wrong? Someone asked. The person who replied was furious. That bastard said he didn't have money. He told us to do whatever we wanted. Then what should we do now? Wait for 2 more hours. If he really doesn't send the money, we'll kill the hostage. Are we really going to kill the hostage? Kill. Asterisk the 26-bit wall had ended. System. My master is still not online. System master. My game hasn't ended yet. System. What's the use of having your master here? System master. Be your master. Chapter 873. Everyone knew that Ji Luiying was so poor that she had to eat dirt. Asterisk Shisheng's consciousness wasn't very clear, and he accepted the plot in a daze. It was a supernatural story. The original host was Ji Luiying, daughter of Z City's famous lawyer Ji Feng. She had just turned 18. Ji Feng pretended to be a successful elite on the outside, but in reality, he was a scumbag. He took bribes, helped some bad guys create false evidence, and forced the victim to confess. He didn't treat the original host well at home. When he was in a bad mood, he would kick and punch the original host. The original host grew up like this. At first, she would resist, but the more she resisted, the worse the abuse she received. Gradually, she didn't dare to resist and became autistic. Recently, Ji Feng received a case to help a boss. In order to clear the boss name, Ji Feng pushed all the evidence to one of the boss subordinates, Chu Jing. This person was the female lead's brother. Ji Feng dared to mess with the female lead's brother, and he would get into big trouble. Although he successfully cleared the boss name, and Chu Jing was the scapegoat, it wasn't long before Ji Feng was exposed as a sadist. He abused his own daughter, and even killed her. Ji Feng's reputation was ruined, and he was brought to justice. Chu Jing was also acquitted. Everything seemed to be perfect. The female lead saved her brother, and punished the bad guys. But there was a very innocent person in all this. The original host was Ji Luiying. She was kidnapped. The kidnappers asked Ji Feng for ransom, but Ji Feng said that he didn't have money, and let the kidnappers kill her. After the kidnapping, the original host was made to look like she was tortured to death, and secretly put in Ji Feng's house. When Ji Feng came back and found his daughter dead, his first reaction wasn't to call the police but to bury the body. While he was burying the body, he was caught red-handed. Later, a series of corruption cases were found, and innocent people were framed. Ji Luiying didn't do anything. Just because she was Ji Feng's daughter, she had to bear all this. When she died, everyone just sighed. And the one who caused all this was the male lead, Li Qingyan. Li Qingyan wasn't a ghost, but the female lead Chu Miao was. She died in an accident, but didn't reincarnate. Instead, she wandered the human world. She knew that someone framed her brother, but she was weak and couldn't help her brother. It was at this time she met Li Qingyan. Li Qingyan could see her. Based on his experience, Li Qingyan felt that Chu Miao was very special. Chu Miao and Li Qingyan reached an agreement. If Li Qingyan helped her save her brother, Chu Miao had to stay by his side. That was why Ji Luiying had been kidnapped. The original owner's last wish was for Ji Feng and Li Qingyan to receive the punishment they deserved. After receiving the plot, Shisheng's consciousness was clearer than before. She blinked hard to make her sore eyes feel better. There were wooden planks all around her. She was tied up and thrown on the damp ground. The dampness seeped into her body. It was so cold that it was bone-piercing. Creak. The door opened, and Shisheng saw 2 tall men walk in. They should be the 2 kidnappers. Every time she came here, she would either meet kidnappers, robbers, or people all over the world who wanted to kill her. God damn it, how much longer is this escape mode going to last? Can't you try something new? I'm so sick of it. Okay, The plot in the novel seemed to have nothing to play with other than kidnapping. If you can't beat them, then kidnap them. Usually, kidnapping was the ending of this character. Those who could escape from the protagonist's hands after being kidnapped were either bosses or perverts. One of the tall and thin men glanced at Shisheng. Jifeng really doesn't want this daughter anymore. Let's kill her first. The man in green sportswear next to the tall and thin man hesitated. Are we really going to kill her? They had originally agreed to kidnap her for some money. Jifeng was a scumbag. He had a lot of crimes under his hands. There was a 90% chance that he wouldn't call the police. After all, what if the police accidentally found out something? Also, they didn't ask for much ransom. It was just to prevent Jifeng from doing anything desperate. But who knew that Jifeng was such an animal? He wouldn't even save his own daughter. The tall and thin man ignored the man in green. He pulled out a fruit knife and walked toward Shisheng. The man in green couldn't stop the tall and thin man. He could only watch as the tall and thin man stabbed the knife towards the person on the ground. Just as the knife was about to pierce her, he instinctively closed his eyes. It was as if someone had pressed the pause button. He didn't hear anything for a long time. He looked over and asked, Is he dead? He's dead. A crisp young girl's voice sounded. In the narrow wooden house, it sounded very eerie. You're going to die too. The man in green opened his eyes abruptly and saw the tall and thin man slowly falling to the ground. The blood-stained iron sword was pulled out of his body. Blood dripped onto the damp ground and soaked into it. Soon, the blood merged with the wet ground. The young girl standing beside the corpse had a cold look in her eyes. The corners of her mouth were slightly raised. This girl was completely different from the girl they had met before. Whether it was her expression or her gaze, it was as if they were two different people. A cold wind blew in from nowhere. The man in green started to tremble. I didn't want to kill you. Yes. It's him. He wanted to kill you. Shisheng pursed his lips. But you're an accomplice. I'm not. The man in green suddenly turned around and tried to run out of the house. Shisheng always believed in erasing potential threats like this first. After dealing with the man in green, Shisheng felt melancholy. He had to dispose of the corpse again. How annoying! She recovered her strength in the house for a while. Her body was still very weak. When the effects of the drug wore off, Shisheng came out of the wooden house. As soon as he stepped out, he was shocked. This was a King mass grave. He didn't know why there was a wooden house in the middle of it. The cold wind blew in the mass grave. It was very creepy. Judging from the clothes of the original owner, it should be summer. But here it felt like winter. It was covered in snow and the wind was biting cold. Shisheng looked back at the corpse in the house. These two people were really bold. They even dared to come to a mass grave. Shisheng thought for a while and decided to dispose of the corpse. These two people were most likely sent by the male lead. What if the male lead's men came looking for them? Although he wasn't afraid of being found, he couldn't be bothered to do anything if they tried to frame him. So it was better to dispose of the corpse. Shisheng threw the two corpses to a more desolate place, and then left the place. The mountain road was crooked, and there were some strange plants growing on the side of the road. Shisheng found that although these roads were a bit desolate, there were still traces of people walking on them. It was strange that there were still people in this desolate place. After leaving the mountain, Shisheng saw a small mountain village. The village looked very simple. Every house was a thatched hut. Dusk was falling and smoke was curling up from the kitchen chimneys. There were still people living in this village. #today's Waha tickets # there was a problem with this group of Qing people before. Everyone knows about it. The subscription for the full text of this book costs 80 plus RMB. The subscription for a Hy-Vee account costs 50 plus RMB. So now the minimum number of fans is 5,000. Some Cherub users may not have that many fans after using the book. So, you can add fans when you have enough. We still welcome you. You can also surf the book review section. I'm here almost every day. Nothing can be accomplished without rules. Please understand. Chapter 874. Shisheng didn't know where this place was and chose to enter the village. There was a huge locust tree at the entrance of the village. It looked like a locust tree, but its leaves were bigger. Shirsheng wasn't sure if it was a locust tree or not. A few children were squatting under the locust tree. They formed a circle and looked at her as soon as she appeared. Their young faces were stiff and expressionless. Their eyes were wide open, and there were almost no eyeballs in their eyes. Only the whites of their eyes were left, like the eyes of a dead fish. It was strange. As expected of a supernatural novel. Even a random village would have a supernatural setting. Level up and kill monsters. Oh no, kill ghosts. After all, this was a supernatural language. The host was going to cause trouble again. Hit her. A naughty child suddenly stood up, grabbed a stone on the ground, and threw it at her. The other naughty children followed suit and picked up stones to throw at her. Shirsheng was depressed. Why were these naughty children so disobedient? A few minutes later, the naughty children were tied up and began to howl at the top of their lungs. Let go of us, let go of us. You monster, let go of us, help. There's a monster coming, Grandpa, help. I don't want to be eaten by a monster, sob. Shirsheng squatted in front of them, pointed at his face, and asked seriously, look at me, which part of me looks like a monster? Monster my ass. I am a decent person. Wah. The naughty children collectively howled. Their voices were ear-piercing, and the whole village was filled with the sound of children crying. The children were so loud that the villagers in the village naturally heard them and hurriedly ran out of the village. Good grandson, De Zhuang. One by one, the villagers ran over, but they were all old people. Shirsheng didn't see any young people among them. These old people looked quite normal, but when they saw Shirsheng, they were all on guard. Shirsheng squatted in front of the naughty children. The villagers surrounded him and whispered to each other. One of the old men stood out. He was wearing a patched green cloth shirt and had a goatee. He was very thin, and his face seemed to be just skin. He walked with a slight limp. Shirsheng heard someone call him the village head. The village chief sized up Shirsheng with his slightly cloudy eyes and asked in a hoarse and unpleasant voice, Little girl, who are you? Shirsheng stood up. I'm just passing by. The village chief frowned slightly. Since you're passing by, why did you kidnap the children of our village? They started it first. How can you blame me? Shirsheng shrugged and blinked innocently. Why are you guys being naughty again? The village chief scolded the children who were still making a ruckus. Clearly, this was not the first time these brats had done something like this. She's a monster. A child shouted. What monster? The village chief's expression turned even more solemn. The few of you, hurry up and apologize to that sister. She is a monster. Drive away the monster. Drive away the monster. Chase away the monsters. Chase away the monsters. The naughty children shouted the slogan in unison. The village chief's skinny face was filled with anger. You lot, I'll deal with you later. Little girl, don't be angry. These children just like to make a ruckus. The village chief suppressed his anger and explained to Shirsheng. Our village is too remote. It's rare for people to come here even once in a few years. There are many rumors in the mountains, so it's inevitable that the children will believe them. Little girl, you look like you're from the city. Please forgive us and don't bicker with these children. Shirsheng sneered. They threw stones at me, but you don't bicker with them because they're young. Does that mean you'll forgive them for killing your family members because they're young? The village chief was a little confused by Shirsheng's reaction. Little girl, we're not very cultured. I'm really sorry. I think the village chief is quite cultured. The village chief looked ashamed. My mother can read. I learned some from her when I was young. I'm not cultured. Shirsheng did not comment. It was none of her business. She was just saying it casually. The village chief thought for a moment. Little girl, I'll get someone to punish them later. What do you think? Drive away the monsters. Drive away the monsters. The group of naughty children were still shouting slogans. Their expressions were stiff, and their voices overlapped like a repeater. The other villagers did not say anything. Some of the elders looked a little anxious. Perhaps one of them was their grandson. Shirsheng took a step back and waved his hand, indicating that they could take the naughty children and get out of here. The parents quickly came forward and rescued their children. They carried them in their arms and walked out. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared in front of Shi Sheng. Ahem. Little girl, did you get lost in the mountains? It's getting dark. Why don't you stay in our village for the night? I can also express my apology. No need. She knew there was something fishy going on. She was not going. Little girl, it's dangerous in the mountains. You'll be in trouble if you meet a wild beast in the middle of the night. The village chief kindly advised her. Shi Sheng did not shy away at all. It's still better than meeting people with ulterior motives. The village chief was speechless. He seemed a little angry, as if his kindness was being trampled on. If that's the case, then you're on your own. You can leave the village after passing through here. After crossing 2 mountains, you'll be outside. The village chief did not linger after he finished speaking. He told the others to disperse and go home. Shi Sheng stood under the big locust tree, looking a little confused. Something was not right. This place was so remote that there should be no signal. How did the 2 kidnappers call Ji Feng? This was easy to explain. After all, there was a satellite phone. Although this place was backward, it was not deep in the forest where the satellite signal could cover. More importantly, why did the 2 kidnappers bring her to such a remote place? Did they have cat biscuits? Shi Sheng could not verify whether the kidnappers had cat biscuits or not. Every family in the village had their doors tightly shut. There was no habit of not closing their doors at night like in the mountains. Sure enough, the books were all lies. Shi Sheng walked all the way to the center of the village. There was a small square here, facing the ancestral hall. The sky was dark. He walked a few steps forward and saw the words on the plaque of the ancestral hall. Ancestral Hall of the Chu family. Chu, the female lead's surname? Oh my god, this is the female lead's quest. Let's clear it first. Are you sure you want to clear it and not sabotage it? However, the system quickly realized that the host was just joking. She had left the village directly. How could something like meddling in other people's business happen to its host? Flips table. Since you don't care, then what the hell are you talking about? Asterisk little fairy. Why not clear it? Shi Sheng, there's no money. You have nothing better to do. Little fairy, there are votes. Shi Sheng, no. Cherub, I don't want to vote. Shi Sheng, draws sword. Chapter 875. Looking at the hazy village shrouded in the night, Shi Sheng refused. Why did they come back to the same place after so many twists and turns? The insects chirped in the summer night, rendering the silence of the night. At this time, the village was dark, without any light. Shi Sheng rubbed his arms, the hair on his body standing on end. It was so scary. Shi Sheng returned to the village. The path paved with bluestones was slippery. Meow. A cat meowed in the darkness. Shi Sheng turned his head slightly and looked at the top of the wall. A small black cat was squatting there, staring at him with its green eyes. There was an evil aura all over its body, which made Shi Sheng very uncomfortable. Meow. It meowed again. Its voice was soft, like a newborn kitten. Little Black. Little Black. A child's voice came from the wall. Come down, Little Black. Meow. Don't meow. Come down. The child was a little anxious, and his voice was very low. Come down, okay? I'll make you something delicious tomorrow. Little Black was probably persuaded by the delicious food. It jumped down from the top of the wall and disappeared in front of Shi Sheng. Shi Sheng stared at the empty top of the wall for a while, then turned and walked to the corner of the wall. He stepped on the stone next to him, climbed up the wall, and looked inside. There was a yard inside, with some shelves in the middle and 2 water tanks in the corner. A child was squatting next to the tanks, holding a dark thing in his arms. Shi Sheng watched as his hand passed through the pitch-black object. He really did pass through it, but the child seemed to be caressing it. Be good and don't come out, okay? If you're discovered, you'll be in trouble. Be good and I'll come to see you tomorrow. The child put the thing into one of the tanks and covered it with dry straw. After doing all this, the child tiptoed to his feet and sneaked into a room. Shi Sheng shuddered and jumped down in disgust. It was very creepy. She continued to walk forward. This time, she didn't encounter anything strange. Unknowingly, she walked to the ancestral hall. She looked at the ancestral hall first, then turned back. In the open space in front of the ancestral hall, a child suddenly appeared. Shisheng remembered that child. He was the one who shouted the loudest at the entrance of the village. At this moment, he stood there silently like a ghost. Shisheng was standing outside the square, and the child was standing in the middle of the square. Normally, Shisheng would be able to see where the child came from. But no, when she turned her head, he was already standing there. Aha! There's a ghost. Yes, this was a normal reaction. Shisheng only glanced at him, then looked away and continued to stare at the plaque in the ancestral hall. The child walked towards the Shisheng. He stopped every 3 steps and dawdled for a long time before he reached the Shisheng. A sour stench assaulted her senses. She didn't know how long it had been since she last bathed. There was still no expression on his face. He spoke in a rigid manner, as if he was reading a script. Leave this place. Leave this place. Leave this place. The childish voice spread out in the dark night, but was blocked by the surrounding buildings, forming an echo. Shisheng looked at him indifferently, and prepared to walk towards the ancestral hall. Just as she lifted her foot, a few more children appeared in the ancestral hall. Just like the first child, they seemed to have appeared out of thin air. Leave this place. The children spoke in unison. They didn't seem to be afraid of disturbing the villagers. They didn't lower their voices, and the whole space was filled with their overlapping voices. What were these naughty children trying to do? Footsteps suddenly sounded. A group of villagers ran out from various alleys with torches, and soon the whole space was lit up. The voices disappeared, and the children disappeared. Only the first child stood in front of Shisheng. He didn't react to the appearance of the villagers. His eyes were dull, and he began to walk in a direction. That's Das Huang. He's sleepwalking again. Don't call him. Let him go back by himself, someone said. Da Shuang walked along an alley and gradually disappeared into the darkness. A few villagers followed him, but most of them stayed. The village chief came late, wearing a coat. When he saw Shisheng, he immediately pulled a long face and asked rudely, "Little girl, didn't you say that you were leaving the village? Why did you come back?" "I walked and came back. Otherwise, how could I fly?" "Rubbish, I walked for half a day in vain. I couldn't even fly out. The village chief asked you not to leave. It's not easy to walk in the mountains at night." Villager A complained. "You took the village chief's kindness for granted." Villager B said, "Don't say anything. It's not easy for the little girl." Villager A said angrily, "She deserved it. She didn't listen to us." The villager waved his hand, indicating for them to be quiet. He showed the kindness of an elder. "Little girl, it's getting late. I'd better arrange a place for you to stay." Shisheng didn't answer the village chief. Instead, he asked another question. "Didn't you hear anything just now?" These people didn't seem to have heard the sound, and they didn't mention anything about what happened just now. But there were so many of them, and they suddenly appeared. Wasn't that even stranger? "What sound?" a villager asked. The torchlight flickered in the night wind, and Shisheng couldn't see the emotions in their eyes. He couldn't tell if they were lying or if they really didn't hear anything. "We're looking for the children," the village chief explained spontaneously. "They were punished when they went back just now. Maybe they were angry so they ran away. Children are naughty. It would be troublesome if they went missing in the middle of the night and ran to the mountains. Everyone was worried, so they asked everyone to look for them. We didn't hear anything." "What sound are you talking about?" "It's fine if you didn't hear anything." Shisheng crossed his arms. "Then go ahead and look for them. Don't worry about me. I'll leave tomorrow." The villagers. The others looked at the village chief. The village chief was a little hesitant. In the end, he waved his hand, indicating for them to look for the children first. These people seemed to be very experienced. They quickly found the children. The children followed behind the adults with their heads down, looking very depressed. "Village chief, De Zhuang hasn't been found." "He's not with them?" The villagers shook their heads. The village chief didn't believe it, and asked the children a few more questions. The children shook their heads with stiff faces. Shisheng stood at the side. The more he looked, the stranger he felt. These children were a little repulsed by the adults. Looking at their behavior, it was obvious that they wouldn't get too close to the adults. Even if someone pulled them, they would break free very quickly. And these adults, that was even more interesting. Facing the children's abnormal behavior, no one was surprised. It was as if they had always been like this. Who was the ghost? Logically speaking, if it was a ghost, she shouldn't be able to see it. After all, the original owner was just an ordinary person. She didn't have the yin-yang eye, and she didn't learn any magic. But now she could see both sides. There were only two possibilities. First, there was something strange about this place. Seeing that she came back again and again, there was definitely something strange about this place. Second, there was something wrong with these people. Seeing the strange phenomenon she saw, there was definitely something wrong with these people. Chapter 876. To sum it up, there was something wrong with all of them. As cannon fodder, she definitely wouldn't have a good ending. So, let's tie them all up. I'm so smart. The villagers were about to continue looking for people when Shisheng made his move. The villagers at the back were the first to suffer. Before they could react, they were knocked unconscious by Shisheng. Little girl, what are you doing? Hearing the noise, the people in front turned around and saw Shisheng holding a sword. They all shouted. Shisheng took out a few military smoke bombs from his space and threw them at the people over there. Smoke filled the air and covered the crowd in the blink of an eye. However, Shisheng didn't hear the sound of people falling to the ground. The smoke surged and a figure rushed out, raising a hoe in his hand and smashing it at Shisheng. Clang! The hoe was blocked by the iron sword. The man was very strong and Shisheng's hand was numb. Being blocked, the man immediately retreated and continued to swing the hoe. People came out of the smoke one after another. They were all holding various tools in their hands. Some were hoes, some were sickles, and some were shovels. They used all the farming tools they could use. These people didn't react to the smoke bombs. Then they weren't human? The smoke bombs didn't work, so Shisheng could only use his hands. The body of the original owner was too weak. She was almost paralyzed from exhaustion after dealing with these things that were most likely not human. It wasn't easy to tie everyone up. At this time, the smoke had dispersed. The people lying on the ground were actually the children. Shisheng. The development of this plot was a bit confusing. The development of this plot is also a bit confusing. Normally, you would go through hardships and dangers, and finally discover the truth. But you just came up and killed all the important characters. How can the plot continue? If it was in a TV series, 30 episodes would be reduced to 1 episode. How can you stall for time? This kind of screenwriter would lose his job at any time. A screenwriter who doesn't stall for time isn't a good screenwriter. Shisheng tied the people up and waited for the people who had just left to come back. After putting them all down, he swept the village to make sure there were no missing people before returning to the square. The sky was turning white, and the village was very quiet. There were no sounds of roosters or other animals. A large group of people were tied back to back in a circle. A few children were also tied to one side. Who the hell knew which one was the real boss? Just in case, it was better to tie them all up. Shisheng dragged a broken chair and walked slowly to the square. She sat down with her legs crossed. Who the hell are you? The village chief asked in a hoarse voice. His thin face was slightly distorted. I'm just passing by. Shisheng pouted and blew out a breath. I'm really just passing by. What do you want? There's nothing in our village. You can't get anything from us. I don't want anything from you either. Even if she was so poor that she had to eat dirt, she wouldn't go so far as to rob a village that looked so poor, okay? If he was going to do it, he had to do it big time. Then what do you want to do? The village chief was so angry that his voice cracked. Shisheng leaned forward slightly. His gaze swept across the children and slowly landed on the villagers. I just want to know, between you and them, who's the real ghost? What ghost? Some of the villagers were confused. Why are there ghosts here? We're all humans, not ghosts. Every villager insisted that they were humans, not ghosts. The group of children had already woken up, but they didn't make a sound. Instead, they stared at the villagers as if this was the first time Shisheng had seen them. The villagers refused to budge. Shisheng turned his gaze to the children. Do you have anything to say? Are you a Taoist priest? One of the older children asked her. No. After hearing Shisheng's answer, the child immediately pulled a long face. Then what's the point of telling you? If you don't want to talk, then forget it. I'll just kill them all. Anyway, these people were all dead. She could at least get out, right? If she couldn't get out, then the entire village would explode. The children. They're ghosts. One of the children spoke up. His voice was no longer stiff. They're all dead. Blockhead. The child who spoke was reprimanded. Blockhead wasn't the oldest, but he wasn't the youngest either. His eyes reddened. I don't want to go on like this. Even death is better than this. Blockhead. What nonsense are you talking about? Blockhead is right. I can't stand it either. With a start, the children began to complain all at once. They said that 2 years ago, there was a fire in the village. At that time, the whole village was on fire. The children had agreed to go to the mountains to play, and that was how they escaped. When they returned, the people in the village were all dead, and only the few of them were left. But the next day, they found that the village was intact, and their relatives were still there. The fire seemed to be a dream. At first, they also believed that they were dreaming, but gradually, they found that there were many things wrong with their relatives. For example, they didn't come out during the day when the sun was up. They only went out to work when the sun went down. When it was time to eat, they always let them eat first, but they never ate. These strange phenomena weren't enough for them to find anything unusual. It wasn't until De Zhuang's grandmother gave him a dead rat, but his grandmother said that it was braised pork. The other children's families gradually had the same situation. If they didn't eat, they wouldn't force them. They just ate those things in front of them. Only then did they realize that their relatives were already dead. They were burned to death by the fire. The people they were seeing now weren't their relatives at all. This strange phenomenon frightened the children, and they made an agreement to run away from home. But no matter where they ran, they would be found by the people in the village. After running away a few times, they didn't run anymore. They acted obedient and sensible, trying to let their guards down. A few months later, they found an opportunity. A stranger entered the village. It was a young couple. The villagers were very enthusiastic about them. They didn't even care about them. The children found an opportunity to escape, but they walked for a long time and couldn't find a way out. There were wild beasts in the mountains. Tired and hungry, they could only choose to return to the village. But the village was empty. They didn't see a single villager. They found the ancestral hall all the way. All the villagers were gathered outside the ancestral hall. They saw the couple from before being burned alive. This incident left a deep impression on the children. Later, they didn't dare to run away. They could only pretend to live in the village. They never dared to eat the food at home. They could only go out at night to find food. It wasn't the first time that outsiders had come to the village. Half a year ago, there were people who came. They ended up like the couple and were burned to death. Chapter 877. Shisheng propped up his chin and listened to the story. He asked one of the children, "How did you suddenly appear last night?" Last night, these children appeared out of thin air. Since they were not ghosts, how could they appear out of thin air? Could it be that he had special abilities? There is a passage under the square. The child did not hide it. They heard that the passage was dug by their ancestors. As for what it was used for, they did not know. When they were young, they liked to play in it. The adults did not forbid them. They were very familiar with the passage below. It was not difficult for the petite child to appear in the square without making a sound. Little girl, don't be fooled by them. They are the ghosts. The group of adults also began to make noise. Little girl, you have to believe us. They are the ghosts. They are lying to you. The villagers' story was the complete opposite of the children's. They said that these children died in the fire. After they buried the bodies, the children suddenly came back one after another 7 days. They had no temperature, no shadow, and were very hungry. They ate everything. They were very afraid. Although these were their children, who could accept that their children had become ghosts? Most importantly, their appearance was too frightening. At midnight, they did not recognize their relatives. When it was not serious, they would just beat people. When it was serious, they would eat people. They had never heard of a ghost eating a human. If it was not so, they would not be so afraid of them. They found people to take them away, but the people they found were all killed by them. The couple they mentioned was also the people who came to take them away. The children said that the adults were ghosts, and the adults said that the children were ghosts. So who was the ghost? Shisheng looked up at the sky. The sun was not far away. In a while, it would shine on the square. Little girl, you have to believe us. We will not harm you. If you really believe them, you will die. The village chief was a little anxious. He kept looking at the sun from the corner of his eyes. Shisheng held his chin and did not move. He waited for the sun to shine. As the sun came closer, the villagers' faces became worse. When the first ray of sunlight shone on a villager's body, his skin suddenly made a sizzling sound. His exposed skin began to rot as if it had been splashed with sulfuric acid. See, I told you they were ghosts. The children pointed at the villagers. We are not afraid of the sun. Who told you that ghosts are afraid of sunlight? Shisheng glanced at them with a smile on his face. Besides, you have human bodies. How can you be afraid of sunlight? Are you retarded? The voices of the children stopped abruptly, leaving only the screams of the villagers. Shisheng stepped forward to untie the villagers. As he untied them, he said, "What are you? Spirits? Or a demon? Or a ghost?" The villagers were untied and helped to walk under the eaves of the ancestral hall, blocking the sunlight. The children were still exposed to the sunlight. Other than their pale faces, which were a little abnormal, there was nothing different about them. You. How did you know? Shisheng's lips curled into a smile. You guys smell too bad. Corpses were corpses after all. They would always carry a rotting smell. They struggled to get up. Shisheng calmly stretched out her hand and casually tapped the air twice with her fingertips. Don't waste your energy. The ropes used to tie you guys up are made of extra material. You bunch of useless brats won't be able to break free. The children's faces changed dramatically. They lowered their heads and looked at the ropes that tied them up. The hemp ropes were faintly golden. The more they struggled, the more uncomfortable they felt. They looked at the ropes that were thrown on the ground and tied up the villagers. They were just ordinary hemp ropes. She already knew? With this knowledge, they knew that this woman in front of them was not to be trifled with. They began to beg for mercy. Let us go. We were also threatened. We are here to watch over these people. Please let us go. We didn't do it on purpose. The children begged for mercy. They were just spirits in the mountains. Suddenly, one day, a man caught them and forced them into the bodies of these people, asking them to watch over the villagers. If they didn't obey, they would die. It wasn't easy for them to cultivate to this level. They didn't want to die so inexplicably. They could only agree to that man. What's that man's name? Someone was actually plotting a conspiracy here. I don't know. We don't even know what he looks like. He is shrouded in a layer of black fog. Shisheng's cold gaze swept over them. The children trembled. We really don't know. Please let us go. We didn't hurt them. We just trapped them. We only killed a few people. They didn't listen to us and ran out. We did it according to that man's orders. We really didn't want to. It's none of my business. Shisheng rolled his eyes. They didn't kill her. Previously, these spirits didn't seem to want to kill her. They just wanted to chase her away. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. Look, the person you asked for is over there. Shisheng raised his chin at the villagers under the eaves. The villagers' skin would burn when they came in contact with the sun. This also started after the children came back from the dead. They didn't know the exact reason. The villagers didn't expect the ending to be like this. Their children died, and in the end, their bodies were taken over by strange things. How could they accept this? However, the villagers still planned to let the spirits go. Shisheng didn't comment on this. Anyway, She wasn't the one who was injured. Why should she worry? Wait. Shisheng called out to the spirits. The spirits turned around. Their attitude was respectful and fearful. Great Immortal, do you have any other orders? You said that there was another child. Where's Dezhuang? The villagers had been looking for him. However, until this matter was resolved, this child still hadn't shown up. Dezhuang? He's a living person. We were afraid that people would find out that he was different. That's why we followed him. The spirit's words were like a stone that stirred up 1,000 ripples. Dezhuang was a living person? The villagers thought that these children were ghosts. They didn't think that Dezhuang was a living person. After all, he had also met with the accident and been buried with these children. It was just that he had returned later than these children. Shisheng asked them to describe Dezhuang's appearance. He looked similar to the child she saw last night. She went straight to the yard. The villagers didn't know why, but they followed her. After kicking the door open, Shisheng saw the 2 large water tanks. The straw on top of the tanks was gone. Shisheng went closer to the water tank. A foul smell hit him. Half of the tank was filled with black liquid. Shisheng covered his mouth and nose. This was blood. It was accumulated blood. As for whether it was human blood or animal blood, he didn't know. The cat she saw last night should have been raised with this. Chapter 878. The fact that Dezhuang was alive made the villagers very happy. They continued to look for Dezhuang in the village, but they couldn't find Dezhuang anywhere. Shisheng didn't have time to look for him. She had to go back and settle accounts with the scumbag. However, Shisheng followed the path pointed out by the villagers and soon came back. The villagers let her out in person. Shisheng came back again after the villagers went out. It was the same for several times. All the villagers could go out, but Shisheng couldn't. After a few more times, Shisheng was a little angry. Where is Ai's sword? There should be a wizardry barrier in this place, like a wizardry barrier that only certain people could go out, such as the descendants of the Chu family. Chu Miao must have something to do with this place. It was not difficult to guess what it was. It was either her father or her mother. Anyway, someone was from the Chu family. No matter who her father or mother was from the Chu family, she had to go out now. Damn it, she couldn't go out. Where is Ai's sword? Shisheng was going to cut down the wizardry barrier. As for whether it would bring any consequences to the Chu family village, it was completely out of her consideration. Damn it, she was going to die. How could she think about others? She was not stupid. Shisheng walked around and found a weak point. The wizardry barrier was cut down, but there was only a small gap, just enough for her to go through. As soon as she went out, the gap closed automatically. Shisheng looked at her iron sword. Did her sword become weaker? Or was the self-healing ability of the wizardry barrier too strong? Shisheng gripped her sword with both hands and swung it at the mountain range opposite her. The surging sword chi slashed out, carving out a deep trench in the ground. The shockwave caused the leaves on both sides to dance in the air. It's not weaker. Shisheng murmured. That's good. So your focus is on the fact that the iron sword hasn't weakened? This wizardry barrier is very strange. Don't you care? It's the heroine's job. It's none of my business. Shisheng said angrily. She was speechless. Crack. In a secret room, the wooden tablet on the incense table cracked. The white-haired woman sitting cross-legged below opened her eyes slightly. She looked at the wooden tablet with a somewhat dazed expression. Enchantment. The woman was not old. On the contrary, she was very young. However, she had a head of white hair. She stood up, her white robe dragging on the ground. She slowly walked towards the incense table and reached out to grab the wooden tablet. The cracks on the wooden tablet slowly disappeared, and it was as good as new. The woman let go of her hand and took a step back. She spat out a mouthful of blood, which splashed onto the wooden tablet. The dark red blood slowly seeped into the wooden tablet and disappeared. The woman looked at the wooden sign, her fingernails gripping the edge of the incense table. She seemed to be struggling with a decision in her heart. Finally, she heaved a long sigh. The woman bowed to the wooden tablet and left the secret room with light steps. Shisheng finally returned to the human world after many twists and turns, but she didn't have a single cent on her. In the end, she could only rely on herself to return to City Z. She had been missing for almost a month, but there hadn't been any major news in City Z. That meant that Ji Feng was still fine. It seemed that without her as evidence, the male lead wouldn't dare to act rashly. Ji Feng was able to live until today, so he couldn't be a brainless person. He was very cautious, and even the slightest movement would alert the enemy. Shisheng climbed through the window and returned to the host's room. The room hadn't changed much, except for a layer of dust. Shisheng opened the door and went out. There was also a layer of dust outside. Ji Feng probably hadn't been back for a long time. In the past, Ji Feng would come back because he had someone to vent on. Now that there was no one to vent on, it was normal that he didn't come back. Shisheng checked the host's finances. There wasn't much. Ji Feng wouldn't give her too much money. The host had probably secretly saved up this small amount of savings. But at least she could eat a good meal, so she didn't have to eat dirt anymore. Shisheng went out to a restaurant to reward her stomach. She also bought some clothes. The clothes in the host's wardrobe were all gray. It wasn't the style she liked at all. She liked dark colors, but she liked black, dark blue, and these colors not gray. Shisheng carried all kinds of bags and climbed through the window. As soon as he entered the room, there was a sound in the living room. Shisheng put down the things and listened for a while at the door. He heard Ji Feng's voice. You take care of this. Don't let them get ahead of you. We're already at a disadvantage. If we let them get ahead of us, we'll lose. That's the CEO of Changfeng Group. We can't offend him, right? The person who answered hesitated. Bang. Ji Feng slammed the heavy object on the table. He said angrily, we're already at this point. If we're late, who knows what Li Chunyan will do? You want to die, but I don't. If you don't take care of this, you know the consequences. Yes, I'll go now. The person hurriedly left. After the door closed, Shisheng opened the door and went out. Ji Feng sat on the sofa facing Shisheng's room. He looked up and saw Shisheng in black casual clothes. Ji Feng's expression changed quickly. He looked at Shisheng from head to toe. He was a bit uncertain. Ji Luiying? You don't even recognize your own daughter after a month. Shisheng walked towards the sofa. Or have you forgotten about your own daughter? Ji Feng frowned. This damn girl dared to talk to him like that. No, she was still alive. How did you come back? Ji Feng's tone sounded like he was talking to a daughter who was traveling, not a daughter who was kidnapped. Take a guess. Ji Luiying. Ji Feng threw the things in his hands on the glass table in front of him. You've been out for a month and you've grown so bold? How dare you talk to I like that? What can you do about it? Shisheng raised his chin. Ji Feng was in a fit of anger. After being provoked by Shisheng, he immediately picked up the ashtray on the table and threw it at him. Shisheng tilted his head slightly. The ashtray hit the door behind him and left a dent. It's rare for a father to be like you, Shisheng said faintly. Shisheng had seen his fair share of scumbag fathers, so he didn't find Ji Feng's behavior strange. People's desires were limitless. Some people could control their desires, while others couldn't. People who couldn't control their desires would sacrifice the people around them for their own goals. It was pitiful to be the daughter of such a person. Even if the original owner didn't die, Ji Feng would probably sell her to someone else in exchange for a bigger profit. Ji Feng was infuriated by Shisheng's words. Coupled with Shisheng's evasive behavior, Ji Feng was even more enraged. He took out a stick from the drawer of the coffee table and swung it at Shisheng's head. He looked like he wanted to beat him to death. ## begging for Wangzai milk-flavored ticket # Wangzai Xiaomantu. Chapter 879. Ji Feng used his brain. He was no match for a veteran like Shisheng in terms of physical strength. Even if she was a weakling, she could easily defeat Ji Feng with her iron sword. Ji Feng's face was pressed against the floor. His hands and feet were tied behind his back. His current position was humiliating and his face was burning with pain. Ji Luiying, are you trying to rebel? Ji Feng shouted in a certain direction. His voice was hoarse and his eyes were ferocious. Let go of I now. Shisheng sat on the sofa, the stick in her hand that Ji Feng had taken out earlier. She bounced it up and down. Let you go? Do you want to do it again? But my hands are sore and I don't want to hit you anymore. Ji Feng's face was red. Ji Luiying, you're asking for it. Mr. Ji. Shisheng narrowed his eyes. A wise man submits to circumstances. You should have told many people this. Why don't you understand it when it comes to yourself? Shisheng spread his hands. It's obvious that I have the upper hand now. Do you think I'll let go of you? Ji Luiying, I won't let you off. What had this little b** tch done outside for the past month? How could she be so bold? In the past, she would tremble in fear whenever he said a word. Just think about it. You won't walk out of this house alive today. Shisheng smiled faintly. Ji Feng repeated Shisheng's words in his mind. He suddenly shouted, You dare to kill someone? Shisheng sneered. It's not the first time. Why wouldn't I dare? Her tone was arrogant and her brows were filled with confidence. Even though she was wearing ordinary clothes, it seemed that it could not hide the noble aura on her body. She should be standing above the 9 heavens, a ruler who could point out the world. Shisheng took the phone and placed it in front of Ji Feng. Do you want to call the police? Ji Feng stared blankly at the screen. On the dial screen, the 3 digits of 110 were already dialed. He just needed to press the button with his chin. Ji Feng looked up at the woman on the sofa. She had already stood up and was holding a shiny iron sword. How could this be Ji Luiying? I gave you a chance to call the police. Shisheng shrugged and walked up to Ji Feng. He lowered his head and looked at him. Ji Feng, do you know why you lost? If I were you, I would call the police. I'm going to die anyway. Ji Feng's eyes widened. The cold light approached, transforming from a single line into a powerful beam of light. Ji Feng was just cannon fodder, so killing him was easy. However, dealing with his corpse was a little troublesome. Fortunately, she didn't touch too many things in the original owner's room. After cleaning up the traces, she took the body to dispose of it. After leaving Z City and heading to the suburbs, the Shisheng flew all the way to the wilderness and finally found a place to dump the body. She threw the corpse down from the sky and watched it disappear into the dense forest. Half of the revenge mission was completed. Only the male lead was left. The male lead wasn't easy to kill. She could only use her brain. Using my brain is something that I refuse to do. It would be much better to just deal with it so simply and crudely. If you cut corners to complete the mission like this, you will be beaten. Did I not take revenge for the original owner? You should report it, right? How could he have cut corners? Ji Feng is dead. Isn't it just revenge? What else do you want? I don't want to talk to the host. Shisheng stepped on the iron sword and left. Just as she left, a flock of birds suddenly flew up from the forest below. A figure slowly floated into the air. He was wrapped in a strange black robe. His whole body was hidden in it. The hood covered his head. Under the backlight, it was impossible to see what he looked like. He lowered his head slightly and looked at the place where Shisheng had just dumped the body. After a while, he floated in the opposite direction of Shisheng. His figure blended into the night and became fainter and fainter. The news of Ji Feng's disappearance spread like wildfire in Z City. Those who had been bullied by Ji Feng were secretly happy, but no one came out to say anything. After all, they didn't know what was going on with Ji Feng. What if Ji Feng came back? At that time, the unlucky one would be the one who leaked the news. Everyone was watching. The Changfeng group, which had been in a lawsuit with Ji Feng recently, was the focus of attention. The police had investigated it once and twice, but there was no result. On the 5th day of Ji Feng's disappearance, someone released the first piece of news. It said that Ji Feng had helped a rapist who had raped a child. At that time, there was sufficient evidence, but the plaintiff changed her statement in the end. An innocent person was used as a substitute for the rapist. If there was a first, there would be a second. There were countless cases like this. Ji Feng used perjury and violence to coerce the plaintiff to change her statement. The person who should have been convicted was acquitted, and the innocent person became the scapegoat. This trend made some people in the industry who didn't like Ji Feng for a long time come out to help those who had been bullied by Ji Feng. However, When the person involved went missing, no matter how much these people made a fuss, they couldn't make any substantial progress. In the end, the matter became more and more serious. If the government didn't solve it, they would offend the public. In the end, a special team was set up to investigate again. Shisheng, the instigator, appeared when the matter was in an uproar. Not many people knew about her disappearance. However, she was indeed not in Z City recently. Shisheng directly said that she couldn't stand Jifeng's abuse and ran away. There were still some old injuries on the original owner's body. It was easy to detect. Shisheng easily cleared himself of suspicion. At the same time, he also received a lot of sympathy and tears. Jifeng's assets were all confiscated. Shisheng didn't even get a house. He could only look for a place to live. When he finally found a small apartment and was about to move in, the owner suddenly told him that he didn't want to rent it anymore. He even refunded him double the amount. Shisheng held the money and stood outside the small apartment. He looked up at the sky. Rich people were so willful. He, a poor man, didn't even have a place to live now. Shisheng continued to look for a house. Maybe it was because of his bad luck. Every time he saw a house for rent, it would be gone. Otherwise, he wouldn't rent it anymore. Honey's magical luck value. Shisheng sat in the square. The sky was low, and the neon lights were shining brightly. Children were playing in the distance. She was going to sleep on the streets today. Maybe she would meet a CEO and he would pick her up. Shisheng took out his phone. The screen was still showing the house for rent. The moment he entered, it automatically refreshed. Shisheng's hand paused. The home page showed a rental information. It was a duplex house with a big space. The owner of the house was in a hurry to go abroad. He needed to rent the house. The rent was a little expensive. He only wanted women to rent the house because the owner was afraid that men would destroy the things in the house. Shisheng secretly calculated her remaining savings and looked at the pictures of the house. He gritted his teeth. Rent. It was easy to make money. Portion was online. Chapter 880. Shisheng found the address. It was located in the old district of Z City. The houses here were all 4 or 5 stories high. Shisheng searched for a long time before he found the address. The landlord was a woman in her 30s. She had a son and was going abroad to treat her son's illness. When the landlord saw that Shisheng was a young girl, she was relieved. After signing the contract, she gave the house to Shisheng. The house was fully furnished. Shisheng didn't need to buy anything. She only needed to put her own things in. She found a place to live, but she was so poor she had to eat dirt. She had to eat first, then think about how to make money. Shisheng took the key and went out. There were 4 houses on this floor. One of them was right across from Shisheng. When she opened the door, a shadow suddenly came out of the opposite house. Seeing the girl in a white dress, Shisheng felt like she was being ked. What an ill-fated relationship. Female lead, why are you here? Something's going to happen again. Chu Miao's feet didn't touch the ground. She looked at Shisheng curiously for a few seconds. Shisheng kept staring at her. Chu Miao floated towards Shisheng. You can see me? In this world, Li Qingyan was the only person who could see her. But this girl seemed to be able to see her. I can't see you. Shisheng retreated and closed the door. The original owner shouldn't be able to see ghosts. Why could she see the female lead? What a bug. Chu Miao looked at the closed door and went in. Shisheng was standing inside. She went through Shisheng's body and floated behind her. When Chu Miao went through her body, Shisheng felt a chill. You can see me, right? Chu Miao asked excitedly. Finally, there was another person who could see her. I can't see you. She didn't want to see the female lead at all. Chu Miao. She could answer her, but she couldn't see her. She must be able to see her. Chu Miao pouted. You can see me, Shisheng said impatiently. What does that have to do with you? It's my own business whether I can see you or not. Do I need your permission? Why don't you admit that you can see me? Chu Miao didn't seem to notice Shisheng's impatience. Why should I admit it? You're not my mother. Chu Miao tilts her head. Her body floats from side to side. Aren't you afraid of me? I'm a ghost. Sheng made an exaggerated expression of surprise. A ghost? That's amazing. You're not afraid of me. Chu Miao noticed Sheng's exaggerated expression and asked curiously, how can you see me? F*CK. Did this female lead have 100,000 wives? Sheng said word by word. I can't see. You're pestering me. I's going to make a move. If you can hear me, how can you not see me? You're lying. I'm not lying. Where's I's sword? Sheng was ready to chop this female lead to death with his sword. Since they were a couple, it didn't matter how they did it. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Sheng hadn't even drawn her sword when the doorbell rang urgently. Bang bang bang. Then there was another loud knock on the door. Sheng turns his head to look at the door. Then he turns his head to look at Chu Miao. She's gone. Bang bang bang. The knocking continues. It's as if the door will be torn down if no one opens it. And the person outside has indeed torn down the door. The door is forcefully pushed open. A figure rushes in and quickly looks around the house. He doesn't even look at Sheng. He checks every room in the house. Sheng silently calls the police. After calling the police, the intruder comes downstairs and wants to go out. Sheng quickly blocks the door. Mr. Li, you broke into my house. Do you think you can just leave like this? What's so great about the male lead? Can the male lead just break into someone else's house? Li Qingyun's face is as dark as water. His eyes seem to be burning with anger. He doesn't even raise his head. He takes out a check from his trouser pocket and hands it to Sheng. Get out of my way. Who cares about your money? Sheng reaches out to block the check. Let's wait for the police to come. Only then did Li Qingyun feel that something was wrong. He suddenly remembered how she had addressed him. Li Qingyun suddenly raises his head and looks at the girl in front of him. She has a face the size of a palm, arched eyebrows, a pair of bright eyes, and an arrogance between her eyebrows. That kind of arrogance can make people forget about her appearance. Li Qingyun frowns. Ji Luiying? This is the girl who disappeared for a month and suddenly reappeared. It seems that Mr. Li hasn't forgotten about me. How rare. Sheng puts on a fake smile. Li Qingyun can tell that something is wrong from Sheng's tone. He didn't contact the person he was looking for, so she can't know. Then it can only be about her father's recent disappearance. Miss Ji, I'm very sorry about what happened just now. Take this as compensation. If it's not enough, you can contact my assistant. I'm in a hurry right now. Can I trouble you to move aside? Sheng's tone is full of provocation. This is my home. If I want to move aside, I'll move aside. If I don't want to move aside, I won't move aside. Who the hell let you barge in? You want I to move aside for you? No way. Li Qingyun's eyes flashed dangerously. Miss Ji, don't force me to fight. Come on, fight me. Sheng rolls up his sleeves. I've never been afraid of anyone in a fight. Not to mention an idiot like you. Li Qingyun doesn't care about fighting with women, but the woman in front of him makes his hands itch. He wants to beat her up. Li Qingyun feels that his connection with Chu Miao is getting weaker and weaker. Chu Miao is about to leave this area. He has to find her quickly. Li Qingyun tugs at his bow tie and stares at Sheng darkly. He suddenly makes a move. Sheng easily blocks his attack, but because he doesn't have enough strength, he can't immediately counterattack. Instead, he is forced to the door. Miss Ji, you're no match for me. I don't want to fight with women. Move aside. Bah. Sheng flicks his bangs. Is the person who just fought with me an idiot? Yes, you're an idiot. Li Qingyun. He wants to beat her up even more. The police arrive half an hour later. The first thing they see when they enter is a mess. Then they see the man who is tied up and thrown on the ground. The police are a bit confused. What's going on? Is this the victim's family? Did the robber run away? Sheng comes out of the kitchen with a glass of water. The police immediately point their guns at Sheng. Don't move. Sheng. The police had a hard time figuring out what's going on. They don't believe that a CEO would break into someone else's house. But according to the scene investigation, the door was indeed forcefully broken. I'm as beautiful as a flower. Who knows what he wants to do by breaking in? I'm acting in self-defense. The police. They don't see a beautiful flower, they only see a messy and unkempt girl. Chapter 881. When Shisheng threatened to sue Li Qingyun. Li Qingyun's team of lawyers worked together and managed to get Li Qingyun out after much difficulty. After all, Shisheng's accusations went from trespassing to indecent assault. How could a normal person fight against Shisheng? Li Qingyun suffered a loss, but he could only swallow it. However, Li Qingyun definitely wouldn't let it go. From the way he kidnapped the original host, this male lead was a ruthless character. Shisheng returned to his residence. The landlord was standing outside with an ugly expression. "Miss G," the landlord shouted angrily. "It's only been a day and you've already ruined my house?" Shisheng felt wronged, but he still apologized. After all, she was the one who broke other people's things. Although the male lead was partly to blame, she was the one responsible. As a person, she couldn't shirk responsibility when it was time to take responsibility. The landlord saw her good attitude and calmed down a bit. "This is Li Qingyun's compensation." Shisheng handed the check to the landlord. The landlord waved his hand. "Forget it, I don't want these things anymore. You can keep them. However, I can't rent this house to you anymore. We're preparing to move abroad, so we have to sell this house." "Damn it. There's no place to live again?" The landlord came today to talk about this, but she didn't expect to see such a scene. At first, she was quite angry, but Shisheng's attitude was very good, and there was an outsider as a witness. It had nothing to do with the girl. She also knew that it was hard for girls to survive in society, and she didn't lack money. "Miss G, I'm not trying to make things difficult for you. It was my husband's decision, so I can't do anything about it." Shisheng was once again on the streets. Shisheng left the check behind. He didn't take bribes if he didn't do anything. So poor. So poor that she wanted to eat dirt. Would she be faster at robbing, or faster at robbing? Thinking about how she was being held at gunpoint by a group of police officers, she decided to just make money. "What's wrong with you?" A head suddenly popped out from behind Shisheng. She subconsciously slapped out, but her palm passed through the other person's head. Her entire hand was frozen stiff, as if it had been placed in an ice cellar. She quickly pulled her hand back. "Damn, the female lead is poisonous." Chu Miao floated to the front. "What are you doing here?" "It's none of your business. Why are you so fierce?" Shisheng said coldly. "I'm just that fierce." Chu Miao pouted. "But I feel that you are very lonely." Shisheng looked at Chu Miao without changing his expression. Chu Miao smiled and said, "I can feel that you are very lonely." She lowered her voice. "Same as me. Other than Li Qingyun, she had no one to talk to." "Don't you have Li Qingyun?" Shisheng shifted into a more comfortable position. "How do you know him?" Chu Miao exclaimed. Chu Miao was so surprised that Shisheng's temples jumped. "Yes. Then are you a Taoist? No wonder you can see me. Will you accept me?" Chu Miao floated around the Shisheng and asked one question after another. Sure enough, only the male lead could stand such a chattering female lead. Chu Miao asked a series of questions, but Shisheng didn't answer any of them. Chu Miao wasn't discouraged. "Li Qingyun wanted to use me, but I didn't know what he wanted to do with me. That's why I ran away." Damn, the female lead already knew about the male lead's scheme? According to the plot, the female lead should only know about it at the end. Then she and the male lead would have a life and death relationship, and the male lead would suddenly realize that he loved the female lead. Then it would be a happy ending. Chu Miao wasn't stupid. On the contrary, she was able to see through many things. She was also very decisive. After knowing that Li Qingyun wanted to use her, she immediately ran away from him. "Do you want to sleep here?" Chu Miao was still chattering. "Strange things often appear here. You'd better go somewhere else. Can it be stranger than you?" Shisheng rolled his eyes and said fiercely, "If you don't leave, I'll accept you." Chu Miao shrank back. She looked at the towering buildings behind her and hesitated. "Okay. Be careful. I'll come find you tomorrow. Thank you for talking to me. You really should go somewhere else." Asterisk flips table asterisk you were the only one talking the whole time. I didn't say a word. Wait, a ghost. Chu Miao waved her hand and floated away. Shisheng sat up from the chair and looked behind him. This place seemed to be a hospital. Hospitals had a lot of ghosts. But she didn't see anything strange. She could only see Chu Miao. She couldn't see any other ghosts. Why do I feel like I've become the male lead? Illusion. It must be an illusion. Shisheng took out the iron sword. With the iron sword, even if there were ghosts, they wouldn't dare to come near. Tomorrow, I'll find a way to make money. I don't want to eat dirt. I don't want to sleep on the streets. Wait, there are so many things in I's space. Can't I just sell them? So was she mentally retarded before? She must have been scared in Chu village. I'll sell them tomorrow. To avoid trouble, Shisheng moved somewhere else. It was better to stay away from the hospital. Since he didn't need to save money, Shisheng immediately went to book a room. Standing by the window, Shisheng could see the hospital buildings across the street. He didn't know if it was because of the light, but he always felt that it was much gloomier than here. In the middle of the night, Shisheng seemed to hear a ghost crying and howling in the distance. He got up from the bed and pulled open the curtain to look outside. There was nothing strange outside. He stood for a while, then put down the curtain and turned around. Just as he put down the curtain, there seemed to be a fog outside the window. It swept past the window quickly and disappeared into the night. Shisheng stood by the bed and watched the fog disappear through the gap of the curtain. What was that? Was it following her or just passing by? Shisheng pondered for a while and decided to wait and see. If it was really following her, it would definitely appear again. It was definitely not a wise move to chase after it. Well, sleep. Shisheng stuck some talismans in the room and went to bed. The next day, as soon as Shisheng turned on the TV, the news was about a suicide in the hospital. This was already the third suicide incident in this hospital. It was understandable that some people in the hospital couldn't bear the shock and wanted to commit suicide. However, it was strange that there were 3 suicides in a row. Shisheng looked at the time of the suicide. It was not long before she saw the fog. There must be a conspiracy. Are you watching this too? Chu Miao suddenly came out from the wall. Shisheng. Scared to death. She glanced at the talismans at the door. How did you get in? Chu Miao looked at Shisheng in confusion and pointed at the wall. I just got in. Shisheng took out some talismans and was about to put them on Chu Miao. Chu Miao was shocked and quickly disappeared through the wall. After a while, she popped her head out and stammered, "Are you going to take me in?" Chapter 882. Collect my ass. You can ignore these talismans. This is not a skill a ghost should have. Even if you're the female lead, it's still impossible. This is against the rules of the market. Let's see if I can kill you with a slap. Shisheng walked into the wall with the talisman. Chu Miao retracted her head and popped out from the other side. Of course I can. If I die, no one will talk to you. Shisheng's mouth twitched. There were many people who wanted to talk to her. You're immune to these talismans. Shisheng pointed at the talisman at the door. Come here, and let me slap you. Let's see if you're really immune. She looked at the talisman at the door. Ever since she became a ghost, the only person she met who could see ghosts was Li Chengyan. How could she recognize talismans? But the talisman looked similar to the ones in TV shows. No. Chu Miao shook her head. What if she died? Shisheng shrugged and put the talisman away. He put on his clothes and left the room. Chu Miao looked at Shisheng's back for a while before she floated to follow him. There was no one in the corridor outside. Chu Miao couldn't hold back and went to talk to Shisheng. What's your name? I still don't know your name. You're really a Taoist. Chu Miao's voice stopped abruptly. She froze on the spot. The yellow talisman hanging from her forehead covered most of her face. Shisheng's hand was still pressing between her eyebrows. Chu Miao was frightened at first. Then she became nervous. But she didn't feel any pain. She tilted her head and moved her forehead away from Shisheng's hand. Did you draw the wrong talisman? Miss, what are you doing? The cleaning lady came out from the next room and looked at Shisheng, who was in a weird posture. Shisheng calmly took back his hand. I think there's bad luck here. I'm helping you get rid of it. Don't thank me. Call me Lei Feng. The cleaning lady was speechless. Which mental hospital did he come from? Should she call the police or not? Shisheng maintained his elegant posture and left the cleaning lady's sight. After leaving the hotel, Shisheng first found a large jewelry store. It was sunny outside, but Chu Miao was not afraid at all. She followed Shisheng closely. Miss, what can I do for you? As soon as the Shisheng entered, someone came up to greet her in a friendly and polite manner. Shisheng nodded slightly. I have something to sell. Large jewelry stores like this usually recycle things, so the waiter didn't find it strange that Shisheng said that. Miss, this way please. Shisheng was led into a reception room. Miss, please wait for a moment. I'll get our appraiser. What kind of items do you want to sell, miss? Shisheng took out a small piece of jade from his clothes. The attendant smiled. Please wait for a moment, Mississippi. The reception room soon quiets down. Chu Miao floats to the table and sits down. She asks the question that she has been holding back all the way. Was the talisman drawn wrong? Shisheng glanced at her. Do you want to know? Chu Miao nodded vigorously. Shisheng smiled and said, I'm not telling you. Why? Chu Miao curled her lips. I won't laugh at you. Shisheng tapped the table with his fingertips and looked at her with a faint smile. Haven't you noticed that you're different from other ghosts? Are you talking about the fact that I can see sunlight? Chu Miao blinked. I've been like this since the first day I became a ghost. I don't know why, but sorry to keep you waiting. The door was suddenly pushed open, interrupting Shisheng. Chu Miao shut her mouth and watched Shisheng talking with the appraiser. She watched Shisheng continuously take out things, which made the appraiser go crazy with joy. But in the end, the appraiser said that they might not be able to get the money in time because of the high value of one of the items. However, if Shisheng wanted to sell it, they could arrange it. The first two items were enough for Shisheng, so Shisheng took back the last one. The appraiser quickly settled the bill and respectfully sent Shisheng out. After leaving the jewelry store, people came and went outside. Chu Miao didn't dare to ask, so she followed Shisheng to buy a house and various other things. Shisheng spent money like water. When Chu Miao was alive, her family wasn't very well off. Even when she was with Li Chengyuan, she didn't see him spend money like this. Did she pick up her money from the ground? Shisheng didn't know what she bought. After all, she didn't have much money left. After entering the neighborhood, Chu Miao finally dared to speak. What did you want to say? Shisheng pressed the elevator button. You're different from other ghosts. She dragged out the word. You're a living soul. Ding. Shisheng entered the elevator. Chu Miao floated in just before the doors closed. What do you mean I'm a living soul? Simply put, you're still alive. It's just that your soul has left your body. If you find your body, you'll come back to life. Shisheng explained simply. Living souls didn't react to talismans, but there were talismans that specifically targeted living souls. After a while, Chu Miao squeezed out a sentence. You mean I'm not dead? Ding. The elevator door slowly opened. Shisheng's voice overlapped with the sound of the elevator door. Maybe. She stepped out of the elevator and was greeted by a gust of cold wind. Shisheng couldn't help but shiver. She looked at the corridor. There was plenty of light. Sunlight shone in from the outside, but it was inexplicably cold. She didn't feel this way when she came to see the house before. Shit, did she buy a haunted house? Shisheng opened the door and went in. Chu Miao followed behind in a daze. When Shisheng was about to close the door, she suddenly floated over. Am I really not dead? How could she not be dead? She clearly remembered. How did she die? Chu Miao suddenly felt confused. She only remembered that she was dead, but she didn't remember how she died. How do I know if you're dead or not? Get out! I's not the male lead. What's the point of telling me? Chu Miao was frightened by Shisheng's gaze. She couldn't help but step back and watch the door close. He's so fierce. Chu Miao murmured. She walked around the corridor and found a place to squat. The cold wind blew in the corridor. Chu Miao squatted for a while and then boldly floated into Shisheng's house. But this time, she bumped into the wall. Chu Miao touched her forehead and reached out to touch the wall in front of her. It was no different from touching the wall. Could she touch the real thing? Chu Miao ran to the next door to try, but she couldn't get in. So it wasn't that she could get in, but that there was something wrong with that house. She had those talismans, so there must be talismans that could restrain her. Chu Miao was a little disappointed. She thought she could touch the real thing. Alas! She lowered her head and was about to leave the house. But when she turned around, a black shadow rushed towards her. Monthly votes. 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 Votes, warm the bed. It's too cold. Ah. Chapter 883. The next day, Shisheng went out and saw Chu Miao in a mess in the corridor. Her white dress was torn in several places and her hair was messy. She was curled up in a corner, looking very pitiful. Seeing Shisheng, Chu Miao immediately stood up with a weird expression. She seemed to be afraid of something, so she pursed her lips and didn't speak. Shisheng glanced at her and walked towards the elevator. Chu Miao hurried to follow him and said in a low voice, "Let's take the stairs." Shisheng raised his eyebrows. His eyes were glittering like stars, but there was no ripple in them. He looked at her calmly. Chu Miao swallowed. Yes. Chu Miao suddenly felt very uncomfortable and couldn't speak. She reached out her hands and scratched in the air. Then she grabbed her neck, as if something was strangling her. Shisheng saw Chu Miao struggling. He reached out and grabbed the cold air around Chu Miao. It seemed that he had touched something scary and quickly retreated. Ahem. Without something around her neck, Chu Miao gasped instinctively. She sounded frightened and almost sobbing. Something is trying to hurt you. Leave here. Don't take the elevator. Shisheng looked at the place where the cold air had retreated. That idiot Mubai? Shisheng walked towards that direction. Chu Miao immediately floated in front of him. Her face was pale. Where are you going? I'm going to see which idiot wants to hurt me. Shisheng said arrogantly. Stay here. No, you can't go. Chu Miao stood in front of Shisheng. He's very powerful. Hey, wait. Shisheng ignored Chu Miao and walked directly to the door next to hers. She looked at the door plate. She remembered that this house was not sold when she bought it. Chu Miao was a little scared of the thing that had threatened her yesterday, so she could only stand far away. Don't go in. He wants to kill you. Too many people want to kill me. Shisheng snorted. He took out his iron sword and forced the door open. A gust of cold wind rushed out when the door was opened. The cold wind lifted her hair, but it didn't cause any ripples in her eyes. The houses here were all exquisitely furnished. You could just pick up your bag and move in. However, this house was empty. There was nothing inside. There was a heavy chill in the room. Shisheng stepped into the room, but the cold air lingering in the room seemed to be afraid of her and retreated. Finally, they all gathered in one room. Just as Shisheng was about to step into the room, a loud crash was heard. Shisheng rushed into the room in a few steps. The glass of the window was broken. Some of the broken glass fell inside, reflecting the scattered light. The room was also no longer filled with the cold air. F***ck. Why do I feel like it's that idiot Mubai? Shisheng leaned close to the window and stuck her head out to take a look. The sun was shining brightly outside, and nothing strange could be seen. There are always idiots who want to harm me. Fear. As soon as Shisheng stepped out of the room, the elevator opened, and several property management personnel in uniform came out. They stared at Shisheng. Shisheng wanted to say that she didn't do it, but she didn't know if these people would believe her. Obviously, they didn't believe her. The surveillance camera showed that she was the one who broke down the door and looted everything inside. The property management personnel immediately called the police. Shisheng only admitted that she broke the door, but she didn't admit anything else. She didn't do it, so why should she admit it? Miss G, why did you break the door? Shisheng rolled her eyes. I don't like it. The police officer was speechless. Do you have to break someone's door if you don't like it? Miss G, please cooperate with us. The police officer said sternly. Do you know that you are committing a serious crime? I didn't kill anyone. What's so serious about it? The police officer's mouth twitched. To you, killing someone is serious, right? Your actions are considered burglary. Miss Ji, please don't hide anything. It will be very disadvantageous for you. Shisheng rolled her eyes. I've said it many times. I don't know how the things inside went missing. There are surveillance cameras everywhere. If I want to take those things away, how can I not leave a trace? Do you think I'm a master thief? Even if I'm a master thief, why would I steal furniture instead of museums? The police officer was speechless. She seemed to have a point. Although the furniture was high-end, it didn't add up to more than 200,000 yuan. It couldn't be compared to the price of this house. She could even afford a house. Why would she be interested in some heavy and difficult-to-move furniture? Although the police didn't pin the missing furniture on Shisheng, they still had to pay for the broken door. The property management personnel were unhappy, but they didn't have any surveillance camera evidence. After reporting it, they actually wanted to kick Shisheng out. They were all important people who lived in this house. They didn't dare to let Shisheng, who was a potential threat, live in the house. If something really happened, it wouldn't be something that could be solved with just a few million yuan. Shisheng was speechless. What the F***ck? The other party was rich. No matter how much they had to pay, they wouldn't let Shisheng stay. This was F***king awkward. If he kicked you out, you would have a reason to make a fuss. But he had to pay. And he had to pay double. He didn't understand the world of the rich. The most important thing was that many of the procedures hadn't been completed. They could go back on their word. If the procedures were completed, they wouldn't have the right to do so. Shisheng thought that this was a good way to make money. They could make twice as much if they stayed here for a day. Shisheng, who was once again living on the streets, was a little confused. What was wrong with her in this world? She didn't even have a place to stay. Hey. Chu Miao floated to Shisheng's side. What did you see in there? Shisheng was dragging a suitcase. I didn't see anything. Shisheng paused and turned his head. Why did you remind me today? Chu Miao's face was still a little pale. She seemed to be floating up and down uneasily. If you die, no one will talk to me. Shisheng understood. She was just a chatterbox. Calm down. Calm down. Calm down my ass. Flip the table. Have I been reduced to chatting with others? That's not what I meant. Chu Miao waved her hand and hurriedly explained. You're innocent. I can't help him hurt you. Shisheng turned his head with a stiff face and continued to drag the suitcase forward. After a while, a voice floated over. Thank you. Chu Miao let out a sigh of relief and quickly followed. Shisheng found a hotel to stay in. He didn't look for a house. Chu Miao was locked out by Shisheng. She paced back and forth in the corridor, not knowing where to go. Her brother's case had been settled. He was acquitted. Although he was her family, they were separated by life and death. Where could she go? Chu Miao floated back and forth in boredom. In the end, she decided to play with her own head. She used to like this, but Li Qingyun didn't allow it. She had to endure this habit. Now that Li Qingyun wasn't here, she could do whatever she wanted. #today's aloe vera votes #votes please. Come vote. Love you guys. Chapter 884. In the plot, Li Qingyun helped Chu Miao take care of Ji Feng. That was why Chu Miao's feelings of gratitude towards Li Qingyun rose to love. Now that Ji Feng was not taken care of by Li Qingyun, Chu Miao naturally did not feel any gratitude towards Li Qingyun. Shisheng's daily routine was to earn money, sleep, and watch Chu Miao tear open her head. It was a sweet experience. Can you imagine opening the door and seeing a headless woman talking to herself while hugging her own head? Bang bang bang. Shisheng was shocked. He lifted his head from the computer and looked at the door. There was still a loud knock on the door. Shisheng closed the computer and stood up to open the door. As soon as he opened the door, a few men in police uniforms rushed in. They wanted to arrest Shisheng without saying a word. What are you doing? Shisheng retreated to the side of the bed and looked at the men coldly. Ji Luing? We suspect that you are related to a murder case. Please come with us to assist in the investigation. Bullsh**t. Shisheng shouted. Show me your police badge. F***ck. These police officers were as weak as chickens that could be blown away by the wind. These people were big and strong, and their faces were fierce. They did not look like police officers at all. Just as they were reaching for their badges, Shisheng kicked the closest person in the waist. He jumped over the bed and knocked down the other two. There was another person outside the door who heard the commotion and wanted to come in to help. However, he tripped over something and fell into the room. Chu Miao poked her head out from the door. When she saw the scene in the room, her expression was strange. Shisheng dragged the person in and reached out to close the door. Chu Miao quickly raised her hand. Can I come in? Shisheng paused and tilted his head slightly. Chu Miao's face lit up and she floated in. Shisheng tied the men up with the bedsheet. Who sent you? Ji Luiying, you are assaulting a police officer. Do you know how serious the crime is? The man who was tied up in the front had a straight face. Let us go now, and we will pretend that nothing happened. Shisheng tugged at the man's collar and gave him a look of disdain. Have you ever seen a policeman with such a long and short uniform? If you have nothing to do, you should watch more police and gangster movies to increase your knowledge. Damn it, your clothes don't even fit. Where did you steal them? The man lowered his head and looked at his police uniform. Suddenly, he turned to the person next to him and shouted, I told you to look for a large size. What did you find for me? Boss. No, this is the biggest one. The man who was yelled at weakly explained. The boss was furious. Which Taobao shop did you buy this from? I must give you a bad review. Boss is right. We must give him a bad review. The others agreed. Chu Miao was speechless. Were they here to be funny? Don't talk nonsense. Shisheng slapped his boss's head. Who asked you to come? Shisheng didn't seem to be very strong, but only those who were hit knew how painful it was. Boss bared his teeth for a while before his aura grew. I'll tell you the truth. We're the 13 heroic bandits, whose name terrifies everyone in the game. Shisheng sneered. Are you an idiot? Boss glared at him. The 13 heroic bandits. You only have 4 people. Where are the other 9? Did you eat them all? Boss turned to look at his subordinates. After a while he reacted and shouted again. We only have 4 people. Why did you choose 13? Don't you know how to count? Boss, this name. Didn't you come up with it? The subordinates wanted to cry but had no tears. How could I come up with such a name? You want me to take the blame? Ha! Are you trying to rebel now that you've grown so bold? The 3 subordinates immediately nodded and admitted, yes. We came up with it. It's all our fault. Boss is so wise. How could he come up with such a name? It's all our fault. Boss, don't be angry. Boss, now is not the time to talk about names. We should be united against the outside world. Shisheng's mouth twitched. Thank you for remembering your situation. Did these people walk into the wrong theater? Was he a criminal from a comedy movie? Why was he here at the paranormal theater? The 4 of them knelt down at the same time and said in unison, Madam, we were wrong. We just wanted to get some money to spend. We saw you coming out of the jewelry store that day, so we followed you. That day, Shisheng went to the jewelry store to sell something, and was seen by the people who were waiting there. These people knew one of the employees and knew that Shisheng had a lot of money on him. That was why they came up with evil intentions. These people usually only did petty theft. Today's incident was the result of their long planning. Who knew that they would be caught the moment they made a move? Shisheng was used to beating people up. If there was any trouble, he would just find someone to beat. This incident should have ended there, but something happened at the police station. These people were all dead. The cause of death was a little strange. They died of suffocation. They died of suffocation in their interrogation room. The forensic autopsy said that it was physical suffocation. But how could there be physical suffocation in such a spacious interrogation room? The police checked the surveillance footage and found that there was a period of time when they couldn't check the footage. And it was during that period that the 4 suspects died. Such a strange incident was quickly reported to the higher-ups. The higher-ups sent 2 special investigation teams to investigate. All the files were handed over to these 2 people. The others were only responsible for following their instructions. Sheng was called in for questioning. After all, she was the last suspect to come into contact with these people other than the police. But Sheng couldn't be bothered to go. She wasn't a criminal. Why should she go? So the people who wanted to investigate could only come here themselves. The person who came to question her was a middle-aged man. He had a buzz cut and was neatly dressed. He looked like an easygoing person. Sheng invited him into the room. The middle-aged man scanned the room and then looked Sheng up and down. "Miss Ji, how are you? I'm Li He, an investigator from the Special Investigation Team." Sheng sat on the chair. "I'm very busy." Every minute was money. These policemen liked to ask her to drink tea. "I don't drink tea. If you don't cause trouble, who will ask you to drink tea?" Li He wasn't angry. "Miss Ji, don't be anxious. I'm just going to ask you a few questions. You just have to answer truthfully. It won't take up too much of your time." Sheng raised his chin. Li He flipped open the file in his hand and took out a pen to record. "Miss Ji, have you encountered anything strange recently?" After he finished speaking, he added, "Something that can't be explained by common sense and science." "Do ghosts count?" Li He's expression changed slightly. He stared at Sheng for a while and asked seriously, "Miss Ji, can you see ghosts?" No. She could only see the female lead, so it shouldn't count. Then did something happen to Miss Ji? Li He's tone relaxed slightly. Sheng thought about it. There was a ghost playing outside her door every day. Did that count as something happening? "I feel like something is following me. It seems like it wants to kill me." "Following you? Miss Ji, can you tell me more?" *, please vote. Chapter 885. How would I know? Sheng rolled his eyes and said in an unpleasant tone, "If I knew, why would I need special talents like you?" Li He's expression remained gentle, but the suspicion in his eyes grew. "Miss Ji seems to know a little about us." Sheng suddenly smiled at Li He. "Isn't it like this in TV dramas and novels? If you add the word special, it must be related to some strange things." Sheng paused. "Actually, I came from the future to save you. Would you believe me?" Li He couldn't keep his expression straight. "As if I'd believe you. Which mental hospital had this Chinibu girl been released from?" "Miss Ji, this is a serious matter. Please treat it seriously." Sheng spread his hands and said innocently, "I didn't kill them, and I can't help you catch the ghost. What else do you want me to do? Help you take the blame to cover up your incompetence? How am I not serious? What a load of nonsense." Li He. Why is there nothing nice coming out of this girl's mouth? He took a deep breath. "Miss Ji, we won't malign you for no reason. Let's stop here for today. If you think of anything, you can call me." Looking at this girl's attitude, he definitely wouldn't be able to get anything out of her. There was no point in him staying any longer. Li He put down a business card and said seriously, "Miss Ji, this is a serious matter. I hope you can treat it seriously. It's not a joke on TV." Sheng tilted his head and smiled faintly. Her eyes were shining brightly from the sunlight outside, but he could only see coldness inside. "This Ji Luiying, goodbye." Li He left Sheng's room and walked down the stairs. There was someone standing in the corner. Half of his body was covered in darkness. His arms were crossed and his back was against the wall. His legs were crossed and his posture was very casual. When Li He saw him, he bowed respectfully. "Captain." A low voice sounded in the stairwell. Li He took the initiative to report. "Ji Luiying seems to know about the special department. She said she saw it on TV, but she doesn't look like it. This little girl is a bit strange. Could she be a descendant of some family?" After Li He finished speaking, he shook his head. "We've recorded all the descendants of the Chu family. It's impossible for us to miss anything." Li He looked at the captain and said with trepidation, "She can't be a descendant of the Chu family, right? Back then, Chu Yining was pregnant. Calculating her age, she was about the same age as Ji Luiying." "She's not." The captain's voice was calm but firm. "Don't investigate her anymore." "Captain?" Li He was puzzled. How could he be so sure? The captain let go of his hand and walked down the stairs. His rhythmic footsteps rang in Li He's ears. She's not the person we're looking for. Without my permission, no one is allowed to investigate her. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. Lee He was startled, but in the end he still said, yes. Chu Miao only dared to stick her head out after Lee He had left for a long time. She could feel that there was something oppressive about that man, so she didn't dare to get too close. Chu Miao floated to Shisheng and whispered, I saw those 4 people outside. Oh. Shisheng was confused. It's the 4 criminals who died. Shisheng. What does it have to do with me? Shisheng chased Chu Miao out. She wanted to sleep. Chu Miao was locked outside and couldn't go in. She could only float down the stairs helplessly. She found the 4 people at the corner outside the hotel. No, they should be considered ghosts now. The moment Chu Miao went out, the 4 ghosts surrounded them. How was it? What did she say? Nothing. Chu Miao shook her head. She has a weird temper. I'll find a chance to talk to her. Then what should we do now? Boss pulled his hair. Can she really see us? I think so. Chu Miao wasn't sure, but she could see her. It seemed like she hadn't talked to any other ghosts besides herself for so long. She couldn't even see them. I'm not sure either. Chu Miao looked into the distance. She turned and ran. I'm leaving. Don't expect too much. Just wait for the news from the police. Right after Chu Miao left, a man ran over with a few people. He quickly looked around but didn't find anything. The bodyguards followed him. President Lee? They didn't know why their president suddenly got out of the car and ran to this place. Li Chungyun stared at the place where the 4 ghosts stopped with a gloomy face. Can he see us? Boss poked the underling next to him. Why does this man look so scary? No way. The underling shook his body. He can't see us. The others also shook their bodies. In the end they concluded stupidly, he can't see us. President Lee, we're running out of time. The bodyguard reminded Li Chungyun. Li Chungyun looked away, turned around and left. Chu Miao disappeared for half a day. Shisheng didn't see her until nighttime. She was in a mess, as if she had been chased. Did you get into a fight? Shisheng held the door and asked her. Chu Miao pouted out of habit. I saw a little girl in the middle of the road. A car was about to hit her. I wanted to help her, but I was hit by the car. She didn't know how she got hit by a car. Shisheng tentatively reached out to touch Chu Miao. His hand still went through her body. He couldn't touch her. Chu Miao looked at Shisheng's hand that went through her body. She was a bit disappointed. She only felt it when she was hit by a car. Other than that, she didn't feel anything different. By the way, those 4 people want you to help them. Chu Miao scratched her head. They want to know how they died. I'm going to help ghosts alone? Do you have nothing better to do? Shisheng slammed the door. Plus, those 4 wanted to rob her before. She would be crazy to help them. Being rejected again, Chu Miao sighed helplessly. This woman's temper was really weird. She still didn't know her name. Shisheng thought those special investigators would come looking for her again. However, a few days passed and no one came looking for her. It was as if they had forgotten about her. Chu Miao had been talking about the 4 ghosts for the past few days. Shisheng was annoyed and didn't even leave the house. Shisheng sometimes went to pick up things from customer service, but he didn't see Chu Miao. He didn't know where she went. Why didn't the female lead stay by the male lead's side? Why did she come here? I'm not here to be the male lead. I'm here to break up the couple, okay? Asterisk little fairy. Do you have a ticket? Cherub, take a guess. Little fairy, yes. Cherub. Why don't you take it? Take a guess. Little fairy. I just want to quietly ask for a ticket. That's all. Chapter 886. Early in the morning, Shisheng heard a lot of noise outside, and the sound of people walking around. She put on her clothes and opened the door. There was a crowd outside and police officers were coming in and out. Shisheng was confused. What was going on? Catching an adulterer? Chu Miao floated out from the crowd and stood beside Shisheng. She glanced at Shisheng and then at the crowd. Something happened. Last night, a couple had checked into a hotel room. Who would have thought that the boy would wake up and find his girlfriend missing? She was found in room 314 on their floor. The girl was naked and had been lying in the room. Her body was covered in marks. However, the girl had no recollection of what had happened last night, and had no idea how she got there. According to the surveillance footage, the girl had taken the elevator to go upstairs at around midnight. She stood in front of the room for a while, then pushed the door open and went in. She did not see any strange people, and the hotel receptionist confirmed that the room was not occupied. The girl had gone to an empty room in the middle of the night, and had lost her memory when she woke up in the morning. She even suspected that she had been drugged and raped. This was a strange situation, so the Special Investigation Unit was called in. Lee ordered the crowd to disperse, and everyone was brought to the lobby. Lee did not stay for long before he came down. He walked straight to Shisheng. "Miss G, could you please move?" Shisheng tilted his head and gave an evil smile. "No. What a big sword you have." Lee took a deep breath and called for the police to bring the people nearby to other places. He sat opposite Shisheng and asked directly, "Miss G, are you keeping a ghost? You can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. When did you see me keeping a ghost?" Lee knew that she would not admit it. He handed the phone to Shisheng. The screen showed that Shisheng was leaning against the door, and there was a faint white figure beside him. Although it was not very clear, he could still make out the outline of the figure. Shisheng smiled. "You're infringing on my portrait rights. You have to pay." Lee stared intently at Shisheng, trying to decipher her expression. However, from the beginning until the end, she maintained such an indifferent attitude, and her eyes were calm like water without any ripples. "Miss G, aren't you going to explain?" Lee pointed at the phone and asked in a serious tone. "Maybe it's just passing by." Shisheng spread his hands. "You won't let a ghost pass by?" Sophistry. This ghost was clearly talking to her. He had seen it all. She could see and communicate with ghosts, but she had lied to him last time. This woman was indeed strange. Lee's eyes darkened. "Miss G, ghosts aren't easy to control. I hope you can let us handle it. Go catch it yourself. I can't afford to raise the female lead's ghost." "Miss G, do you know what you're doing?" Shisheng said fearlessly. "Mr. Lee, I didn't do anything." "What did I do?" "Even if you want to make a statement, you need evidence. I'm going to call the police if you keep spouting nonsense like that." Lee was infuriated by Shisheng's nonchalant attitude of "do whatever you want." He kept feeling that this girl had an evil aura about her. She looks quite obedient, but her words carry thorns. Lee was about to say something when his phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID and immediately got up to leave. Shisheng cupped his face as he watched Lee leave. He was in a daze, and no one knew what he was thinking. Since this was not a murder case, they only asked the hotel staff not to touch the crime scene. There were no other restrictions. After such an incident, most people did not want to stay any longer. Hence, after the police took their statements, most of them chose to check out and leave. Not many people stayed. "Young lady, you're quite brave. You even dared to stay here." Shisheng was waiting for the elevator when a man spoke to her. Shisheng glanced at the man and smiled. She walked into the elevator. "You're quite brave too." The man sighed and followed Shisheng into the elevator. "I don't have a choice. I'm here on a business trip. I booked a room long ago. If I stayed elsewhere, the company wouldn't reimburse me." Shisheng glanced at Chu Miao, who was playing with her head behind the man. He smiled faintly and said, "Then you have to be careful. You might meet something dirty." Chu Miao was holding the head in her hands. She raised the head slightly and looked at Shisheng in confusion. Why did it feel like she was calling him something dirty? The man felt that Shisheng's smile was a little creepy. The temperature in the elevator seemed to have dropped a lot. "Is there really something dirty?" The man swallowed his saliva. "Maybe there is." Shisheng's smile deepened. His voice spread in the elevator. "If you're unlucky, you might meet it." The man felt that the surroundings were getting colder. Ding! The sound of the elevator arriving scared the man. His expression changed drastically. He did not know what he was thinking. Before the elevator doors fully opened, he ran out. Shisheng walked out slowly. "Why did you scare him?" Chu Miao asked curiously. Did I scare him? Chu Miao. You should have, right? Shisheng defended herself in all seriousness. I'm just letting him take precautions. Who knows if he'll be the next one to die? According to the rules of novels, this matter was definitely not over. Shisheng guessed right. Someone else had an accident that night. It was the man who had drowned in the bathtub. No one had died before, but this time, someone had died. The police checked the man's room. There was no trace of anyone entering. The room was locked from the inside. It could be said that all the places that people could enter and exit were locked from the inside. This was a secret room. Shisheng was the last person to come in contact with the man. Naturally, he was the main suspect. But the surveillance camera showed that she had not come out of the room since she entered. The police checked for a long time, but found no useful information. The police took the body away. Most people had left, leaving only a small group of police officers. Just as they were about to leave, the hotel's security system suddenly rang. All the doors began to close. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? The hotel's customer service immediately jogged over and comforted them. I'm sorry, officers. Someone has triggered the security system's alarm. The hotel's doors are controlled by the security system. They will open when the alarm is lifted. Who is it? The customer service shook his head. I'm not sure. The manager has already brought people to check it out. But to trigger this alarm, it should be the anti-theft system. The police immediately ordered. Take 2 people with you to check it out. This hotel was said to have the most advanced security system in Z City. Once someone triggered the alarm, the entire hotel would be closed. Shisheng's face was full of I have already seen through the truth. He was going to close the doors and release enough. Bah. Release ghosts. Something was going to happen. Why did she choose this hotel in the first place? Chapter 887. Of course, the person who triggered the alarm was not caught. Similarly, the alarm could not be deactivated. If the alarm could not be deactivated, the door could not be opened. If the door could not be opened, the door could not be opened. The manager contacted the developer of this system, but the developer said that the technician had gone abroad for further studies. The earliest he could come back was tomorrow morning. Very good, one night was enough time for a massacre. What a trick. I'm not leaving. The hotel had just lost someone, and now this happened. The hotel staff did not dare to stay in their rooms. They all gathered in the lobby. When they separated, there were not many people, but when they gathered together, there were quite a lot of people in the hotel. The lobby was almost full. The strangest thing was that Shisheng saw Li Qingyan. Li Qingyan. The awesome male lead Darren. Asterisk flips table asterisk when did the male lead get in here? Director. Why are you forcing the male lead to have more scenes? I can't accept this. In the panicked crowd, Li Qingyan stood tall and straight. He had an extraordinary presence, and was calm and collected. In an instant he separated himself from the background. His eyes scanned the crowd, as if he was looking for something. Shisheng was sitting on the sofa in the lobby. There were people in front of him, so he was blocked. Li Qingyan did not notice him. He turned his head and said a few words to the bodyguard behind him, then walked towards the elevator. Shisheng guessed that he was looking for Chu Miao. He seemed to have a strange connection with Chu Miao. He could sense Chu Miao within a certain range. How long will it take? I have a party to host. Can you afford the delay? What's wrong with your hotel? The woman's sharp voice sounded in the lobby. The noisy lobby suddenly quieted down. They all looked at the woman standing at the front desk. The customer service staff looked apologetic. He bowed slightly and replied, I'm very sorry, ma'am. The technician could not make it back in time. The woman interrupted the staff. Stop talking nonsense. When can you go out? The earliest is tomorrow morning, ma'am. Tomorrow morning? The woman's voice was sharp. Because she was angry, her delicate face was distorted. Why would I go out tomorrow morning? We are deeply sorry for the inconvenience. What's the use of apologizing? Do you know how much I've prepared for tonight? Now that you've done this, all my efforts have been wasted. The more the woman spoke, the more agitated she became. From the corner of her eye, she saw the police next door suddenly run toward them. The woman insisted on kicking up a fuss. The police and the customer service took turns to step in, and the fuss lasted for more than 10 minutes. Just you wait. The woman walked towards the elevator in her high heels. Before she left, she didn't forget to threaten them. Sister, can I sit here? A soft voice came from beside Shisheng. She turned her head and saw a 7 or 8-year-old boy holding a sketchbook, looking at her innocently with his big eyes. Whatever. The boy had small arms and legs. He crawled to the Shisheng and sat down. His chubby face was a little red. He smiled sweetly at Shisheng before flipping open his sketchbook and starting to scribble on it. Sister, do you believe in ghosts in this world? It was unknown when the boy had stopped drawing. He moved closer to the Shisheng and blinked his big eyes at the Shisheng. How come you've seen one before? The Shisheng raised her eyebrows. The boy's eyes lit up, and he nodded vigorously. He handed the sketchbook to the Shisheng. Look. They don't believe me, but I can really see them and talk to them. I saw this at the kindergarten. She said she was a teacher at the kindergarten, but I've never seen her before. She's very nice and has taught me a lot. The boy pointed at the sketchbook and introduced it to the Shisheng. This one is from around my neighborhood, but he looks a little scary, so I don't dare to talk to him. And this one, I saw her at the park. The corner of the Shisheng's mouth twitched as she looked at the sketchbook. Other than the different colors, she couldn't tell who was who. Some children could see when they were young, but as they grew older, this ability would disappear. For this boy to be able to see at 7 or 8 years old, he must have a natural talent. Sister, you don't believe me either? The boy saw that the Shisheng didn't say anything, so he looked at her pitifully. The Shisheng turned sideways. Can you see ghosts in the hotel? The boy tilted his head, turned his gaze to the lobby, and shook his head. Not here. Not here? So he had seen other ghosts in the hotel? Where did you see them? The boy glanced at the Shisheng cautiously and he stuttered. I saw a ghost following sister. Wasn't it Chu Miao who was following her? Chu Miao had been following her all day. If this child could see ghosts, it wouldn't be strange for her to see her. He's very scary, the boy said again, and his voice was even lower. I also saw him kill other ghosts. The more the boy spoke, the more Shisheng felt that something was wrong. How could Chu Miao, a naive girl, kill ghosts? No. Was that ghost a boy or a girl? A boy. Shisheng felt a chill run down his spine. Damn it, which idiot wants to trick I? She couldn't see ghosts, but she could feel a chill when a ghost approached. The stronger the ghost, the stronger the chill. If there was really a ghost following her, it must be very far away. If that was the case, how do you know it's following me? If it was following her from a distance, the boy shouldn't be able to tell at his age. The boy blinked, and his big watery eyes were filled with innocence and confusion. I saw it standing outside sister's room. I saw it several times. Shisheng. Thinking about what happened last time, Shisheng felt that the ghost following her was very likely the same one. And it could also be that idiot Mu Bai. That idiot always wanted to cause trouble behind her back. This time, she had to teach him some manners. Xiaoyu. A woman hurriedly squeezed through the crowd and held the boy in her arms. Didn't I tell you not to run around? Why are you so disobedient? Mommy. The boy stuck out his tongue. I'm tired from standing. I want to sit for a while. But you can't not tell Mommy. The woman touched Xiaoyu's head. Don't do this again. Do you hear me? Mommy will be worried. I know, Mommy. The woman heaved a sigh of relief. She looked at Shisheng and nodded slightly. Xiaoyu didn't cause any trouble, did he? Shisheng smiled and shook his head. Say goodbye to your sister. The woman picked Xiaoyu up. Goodbye, sister. Xiaoyu waved his hand. He thought for a while and handed the sketchbook in his hand to Shisheng. Sister, this is for you. We're friends from now on. Everyone else didn't believe that he could see ghosts. Only this sister believed him. He liked this sister. It's a child's doodle. Miss, if you don't mind, please accept it, the woman explained. She was probably afraid that Shisheng would find it strange. Thank you. Sheng took the sketchbook and took out a pendant from his pocket. He put it on Xiaoyu. This will protect you. May you be safe and healthy. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.